Fam, good morning. Good morning. Hope you are having a fine Thursday. I'm coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. My name is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for being a member of the Undefeated. Inside the comment box, how to do that, just hit the hyperlink up top. For only $2.99, you can support this YouTube channel right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. 105,000 subscribers right here on Bama Football on YouTube. On the show today, I want to talk about some highlights, some practice highlights. We're talking practice of Jalen Milroe working out with Jordan Palmer. Talked about Ty Simpson yesterday, but we're going to talk about the main man, who is Jalen Milroe. That's your quarterback. See, Bama, always up in here. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me know where you are watching from inside the comment box. Okay? Roll Tide, Patty. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you're a member of the Undefeated, rep it inside the comment box. Also want to talk about some prospects that Alabama is very interested in. Jeff is coming to us from Pell City. BX boy coming to us from Huntsville, the 256. I love Huntsville. Huntsville, man, that's a nice city. That city is on the rise. Nova Speed, what's up, man? Appreciate you. Part of the Undefeated. Watching from Knoxville. Okay, that's okay. We're not mad at you. Other people might be mad. Josh Heupel might be mad, but we're not mad at you. Thanks for being here. Mike G, what's up, man? Let us know where you're watching from. Arthur Malone coming to us from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Man, Arthur, please go to Golden Pride and get me a burrito. Get me a number 10. Get me a number 11, please. And send them to me as soon as you can. I take extra green chili. And throw in some green chili stew too while you're at it. Nova Speed's coming to us from GA. What's up, man? RIP to the king, the Roll Tide. Roll Tide from Muscle Shoals. Debbie, I might be up in Muscle Shoals in a couple weeks. There's a golf tournament taking place up there. Muscle Shoals, Fighting Joe, Schoolmaster. Those are some hard courses to play. But I'm all for the competition. Arthur, you got me? I appreciate it. Curtis coming to us from Augusta, Georgia. Nova Speed, I got you. Coming to us from behind enemy lines. Be Good coming to us from Lawrence, Kansas. And Tough Bez Nails coming to us from Winchester, Virginia. What's up, Matthew? I see you inside the comment box. RIP is coming to us from the ATL. Home of Ludacris and Outkast. What's up, Daquan? What's up, man? Good morning to you. Smooth. What's coming to us from the ATL? I love the ATL. You already know how I feel about Atlanta. Every time I've gone to Atlanta, they've treated me so well. I like it out there. It's a good vibe. T.I. I listen to T.I. when I work out all the time, right? I love T.I. That actually, T.I., those are some of my favorite albums, is like the old Outkast, and Outkast has been able to morph, throughout the decades, right? Ludacris is Ludacris, but T.I. is like that. Like when I really want to get like a hit workout when I'm working out with my guys, and T.I. All right, appreciate you guys. I want to let everybody get checked in. Danny, what's up, man? Good morning. Hell with Auburn. Good morning, man. Coming to us from Canada. Wow, man, our friendly neighbor to the north. Are we talking about music? To open it up, man, we're always talking everything, man. But Atlanta, when you think back about it and you think about the great artists that have come from Atlanta, my goodness, man, right? We have any fans of like Goody Mob up in here? Matthew, what's up, man? Appreciate you being here. Michael, good morning to you. Roll Tide Roll. Pink Floyd, my band, yeah. And like for me, I wear different types of hats for different music, right? Because I'm like, I can go from T.I. to Chris Stapleton really quick, right? I can go old school country, right? I can go George Strait. I can go all over the parameters. I can go rock, right? My son, he's into Blink-182, but I've also heard him playing some Biggie, right? So I love it. All the music better. Man, Morgan Wallen, man, one of the best albums that came out is One Thing at a Time. And I listened to that album because one time I drove from Albuquerque to Tuscaloosa. And I listened to that One Thing at a Time album the entire time. I'd love to see Morgan Wallen out in concert up in Nashville. That'd be amazing. But he's still doing shows and stuff like that, even after he threw the chair, right? And see, people will give you grace. That's what I love about society, right? You can't, I mean, there's certain things that are just unforgivable, but for the most part, you say you're sorry, take accountability, and we're rolling with it. All right, Chris, man, what's up, man? Coming to us from Panama City. What's going on? Bruce, roll tide, roll. Be good. You can Airbnb in the original Dungeon Family studio. Dang, that's amazing. Patriot Life, man. What's up? Good morning to you. Here for a great time, not a long time, man. What's up, man? C-Dub, good morning to you. Appreciate you guys. Love this community. Had it. A name change, just Corey W. Okay, Corey, it's all good, man. Name changes, man. Sometimes you got a name change to protect the innocent, right? All right, who ain't throwing the chair, right? Bobby Knight. I mean, that was the famous chair that he threw. Man, R.I.P. to one of the great coaches. Jimmy Lee Baker, man, what's up, man? I see you inside the comment box. Good morning to you. All right, okay, you guys ready? Guys ready to get the show started? 8:08. That's the time. That is the time. Got the workout in. Got the Rose Bowl hat on. You know, despite what happened in the Rose Bowl, this is probably one of my favorite hats. Okay, and they also had this hat in white at the Rose Bowl. Wasn't able to get it. Who went to the Rose Bowl? Do we have anyone that went out to Pasadena? Pasadena, where you at? All right, but I like the hat. It was hot at the Rose Bowl, like really hot. Okay. And you know what else is hot? These highlights right here, okay? Courtesy of, I think it's Athlete's Thread. Let me get the courtesy spot up. The performance on Instagram, okay? So you have Jalen Milroe. Let me set the stage for everybody, okay? Now I'm going to open up the call line. We can talk. There's a football flying in the air. So you got Jalen Milroe. And yesterday we talked about Ty Simpson. I read all the comments inside the comment box, and everybody's getting fired up about the quarterback situation. Ty is better. Jalen Milroe is better. You don't like Jalen Milroe. You don't like Ty Simpson. Welcome to big time college football, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And what I mean by that is you have elite talent at all of the positions. Okay. You're telling me just because one person is elite, the other person can't be elite? Well, this is the standard of Alabama football. Okay. Welcome to college football at the highest level. Alabama is still at the highest level. So when you have a quarterback like Jalen Milroe, who is a starter, there is more than likely going to be a guy behind him that is pushing him to be even better. And that guy is also elite. There is nothing wrong with having two quarterbacks that can perform at the highest level. You ever watch the NFL? Right? You ever seen a guy come off the bench? You ever watch the 49ers? Where the hell was Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, coming in? And where's Trey Lance now? He's the backup for the Cowboys. My point is, there is elite talent here within the quarterback room. One of the strongest position units, whether you want to face it or not, is the Alabama quarterback room. Okay? Dylan Lonergan, pretty damn good. Austin Mackey's going to get there. All right? So these are the highlights that are circulating. Everybody's excited about them. You know what? I noticed a couple of different things. You know, first off, thank you, Jimmy Lee Baker, Hurts, Tua, Jones, right? That was all within the same room, okay? So I feel that Jalen Milroe, he continues to work on his mechanics. How high is the ceiling of Jalen Milroe? I think it is very high. I kind of think back to where Jalen Hurts was, right? Because a lot of, like Jalen Hurts, he was another criticized quarterback that couldn't get the job done, this and that. Now look what he's done for the Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe not last season, but the year before, it took him to the Super Bowl, right? So I think Milroe's season combined with the fact that he has the physical attributes that make him, I would say, the most dangerous quarterback in college football. Jalen Milroe puts a season together this year. Right now, if you like to gamble, if you like value, I think Jalen Milroe is plus 1,400 for the Heisman Trophy. You aren't going to get a better value for your odds in the Heisman Trophy right now than Jalen Milroe, because as soon as the season starts and as soon as he posts 6 total touchdowns against Western Kentucky in week 1, then you're going to start to try to get the Heisman Trophy, and it's going to be too late. Okay. I think with Coach Kalen DeBoer coming in, and with the work that Jalen Milroe has done and what he is capable of doing. And I think just like Mike G is saying inside the comment box, and you've heard me say this a million different times, is I think Bill O'Brien did him wrong, and I think Tommy Rees wasn't ready for the stage, and I get it. Milroe has his own things that he needs to work on, just like every single quarterback that is thrown into the fire, right? But what Jalen Milroe brings to Alabama football is an ability to win football games, okay? He is going to win many football games. He might win a national championship for Alabama. That might be his legacy, okay? I get it. When you look back to the Michigan game, you look back to the Texas game, there was things that didn't go right for Alabama football, but it wasn't all Jalen Milroe. The offensive line didn't do him service. They didn't do him justice in the game against Texas, and they didn't do him service in the game against Michigan. Jalen Milroe shouldn't have thrown those passes against Texas. That looked amateur. That looked like a young guy who was overwhelmed by that magnitude of the game. Plus, give credit to Texas last year. In that football team, they also reached the Final Four. That was a Steve Sarkisian team that was pumping their chest, and that was their Super Bowl early in the season to be able to beat Nick Saban at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Steve Sarkisian's a hell of a coach, but that defense was better than we gave them credit for. Okay? Yeah, you know what, Danny? I even forgot about Julian Sain. It's crazy. I really did. I forgot all about him. And that was the crazy thing, was I was really excited about Julian Sain coming to Alabama football, and then he left, and we don't even talk about him anymore. I'm excited about Austin Mack. I really am. Someone said he's closer to 6'8". I haven't stood next to him. He looked pretty damn tall. 6'6", 6'8", not much of a difference. I don't know. Who's been one of the tallest quarterbacks that Alabama's had? I always like to, yesterday I asked that about the secondary, and someone brought up a really good point, said that it was Dre Kirkpatrick kind of floated in at 6'3", right? But now you have another Dre Kirkpatrick if you really want to feel old. If you really want to feel old, my daughter, who just graduated from 5th grade, today was her last day of school, she went to school and she had a shirt on and it said, class of 2031. 2031. Okay, I'm class of 2022 or 2002. Crazy. 2032. That's where we're at. All right. Before we get to these other photos, let me know where you guys are coming from, and then I'll open up the call line if you guys want to chat with me. It's 205-850-1994 right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I love the highlights from what I've seen from Jalen Milroe. And look, I'm not surprised to see him continuing to make progress. The one, I guess, video that has really caught my attention on Jalen Milroe this spring was the I don't even know where it's at. Maybe I can find it, actually. Let me see. It was the image of him in the gym. And then, no, he was throwing the football. Oh, here it is. Look. This is the video that shook college football. Okay, this is it. I'm gonna play it right now. Look at this. This is your quarterback. This is the quarterback for the University of Alabama. There's not one school that isn't terrified to face this guy you're playing. Okay, this is crazy. Milroe is working. Niggas got muscles on muscles. You can put the team completely on his back. That's the video that I really remember. And he's a leader. Okay? I know right? He's built like a boxer. Got the traps. Man, the dude's in the weight room. You can't even tell it. I mean, I guess you could see it kind of in this video right here. And you know what? Milroe even said that when the season ended, there was people hitting him up, sliding into his DMs. Come over here. Come be our quarterback. If he went into the transfer portal, any program would love to get Jalen Milroe. Let me ask you this. The other day I saw an article talking about quarterbacks making X amount from NIL. How much do you think Jalen Milroe is making? Do you think he's making $2 million this year for Alabama? Do you think he's making more? PK, what's up, man? He says, if Anthony Richardson can go in the first round, Milroe should be a top 5 pick. You know, Anthony Richardson was crazy, man, for Florida. I think that maybe they didn't utilize him to the best of his abilities, but every single time he stepped on the field, I was worried about what that guy was going to do because he was so dangerous. And I think Milroe is better than Anthony Richardson. I think he throws a better deep ball. Matthew is saying that On3 has his NIL value at 1.6. I don't know if that's like, yeah, they give him the value, but I don't know if that's like the actual number. But I think those are like numbers for us to work with. Matthew is saying, dude is Michael Vick 2.0. You know, they asked James Brockemeyer, or we did, when before James Brockemeyer had transferred, which is still kind of crazy to me. I felt that James Brockemeyer, you know, he made a hell of a breakthrough. What's up, A-Watt? I see you inside the comment box. C-Dub is saying Coker was so underrated. And they asked James Brockemeyer, they were like, who are you going to play with when NCAA football drops, right? July 16th, if you get it early. And he was like, Jalen Milroe, 1,000,000%. And I think the entire nation, the guy's on the cover of the game. Him with Travis Hunter. And I do like Ty Simpson too. I do. I think Ty Simpson is a hell of a quarterback. I think Ty Simpson could be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Welcome to Alabama football. There's more than one good player. Wow. Shocker. Are you surprised? Wow. Jam Miller could be the best running back in SEC in college football. Wow. Does that mean that Justice Haynes isn't the same? No. Like, this is Alabama football. This is the brand of football. Just because you have one guy doesn't mean that another guy can't be great as well. These guys are pushing themselves all the time. All right. So, love what I've seen from Jalen Milroe. He's putting in the work. His shirt, I think his shirt was an Allen Iverson shirt. I think it was a AI shirt. I personally really liked Allen Iverson. I think I saw it one time. I can't see it right there. I liked Allen Iverson, right? Practice, we're talking about practice. Look, you put the ball in AI's hands. I felt though the team, like it was always going to be just his team, right? I get it. Like some players are just like, that's them. He didn't have a lot of contributors, right, for the Sixers. But I loved AI. All right. So the team's working together. Here's Jalen Milroe working with Jordan Palmer. I'm sure you saw that was released yesterday. The team is putting in work together. Look, iron sharpens iron. That's what Smooth just said right here inside the comment box. Kettlebell work with Jalen Milroe on the right. You got another quarterback who we talked about yesterday, and that is Ty Simpson. Just like Rocket Town is saying, run the thumbs up. I appreciate it. AY is saying inside the comment box. If I was a bigger hater of Milroe till I realized our team was one of the top teams allowing sacks. Hard to throw accurately on your back, and you can see with the circumstances. Patriot Life in with 5 fan funders. I appreciate you, Patriot Life. Thank you for supporting our great community, the undefeated, right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Matthew's got to go do that work, man. I appreciate you being here on Thursday. Coach Jay is saying, you guys out here talking about practice. We're talking about practice, right? That might be Allen Iverson inside the comment box. Milroe is going to dominate this year. Just didn't have any structure last year. He really make every 4th and 30. That was there's the 2nd and 26 by Tua that is always going to live in your mind. And there is a 4th and 31. And I get it. Look, I know who caught the ball. It was Isaiah Bond. I'm not going to pretend that it was another wide receiver. That was it. Welcome to college football. There's going to be players on your team that you choose to root for, and then they're going to leave. Demetrius, what's up, man? I appreciate you. Man, the team is working this summer. The team is hungry this summer. Shaking the camera with my fist, okay? Because nobody believes in this team. This team is viewed as vulnerable. We've talked about this. People don't believe on the quarterback on the right of your screen. People think that the quarterback on the left is good. They don't think he's great. They don't think that Kalen DeBoer is mean enough to beat this team. We talked about his kindness and that people are thinking that he's soft. So the team is in the gym. They're working. They're in the lab. I like it. Haters gonna hate for sure. Jarvis, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Yeah, I think Alabama's going to be tough to beat. Bama Hater, what's up, man? You know, Bama Hater, I told you before, there was I think we had 350 people that were blocked. That we had a former moderator sneak in and sabotage. So everybody's back in. But Bama Hater, man, I appreciate you being here. Standard for what? Whining and making excuses after losing. Ain't Nick gone? Bama just sent the entire graduating class away without a ship. That count ain't stopping no time soon. You know, I think Bama Hater, I appreciate you being here, man, and trying to start some smoke. I think with Nick Saban, with him exiting, I think he had the emotional intelligence to leave at the right time. I feel that he could, just like he said many different times, he wasn't able to tell people that he could be here for 5, 6, 7 more years in terms of coaching. But it's been amazing to see what he's done, post retirement. He's still, he's giving an interview every single day, and he's at these golf events, and it's almost like there's Nick Saban, and then now is Coach Kalen DeBoer. What's amazing is how low Coach Kalen DeBoer's views are in terms of like those, like the podium and the interviews. I don't know if he's been giving too many interviews or what, but the views are a little bit concerning. But I think in terms of turning over the keys, Kalen DeBoer was the right guy to do it, because the offensive-minded coach, this is an offensive game that we play right now, basically grass basketball, and you have Jalen Milroe, who's probably going to be putting up, 50, 60 points a game. All right, Roll Tide Patty, what's up, man? I appreciate you being in here. Link Tink's on a whole different level this year, 100%. You saw it tatted on the arm of Caden Proctor. Lynn Shanafeld, what's up, man? Appreciate you being here. Milroe needs to have time to read the defense, and it's hard to do when you're scooping the football off the ground. Yeah, look, here's a quick trivia question, okay? How many centers left from Alabama? How many centers? Demetrius, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. How many centers left? Let's count them out. Mike G hit the nail on the head, right? Jeff, it's actually 3. Terrence Ferguson, Florida State. Seth McLaughlin to Ohio State. And James Brockemeyer to TCU. It's wild, right? So center coming in, Parker Brailsford, never even saw him snap a football. And then after that, you have Big Gino coming in. I think so. I think you're right. The views are low because Bama fans aren't used to our coach giving out a lot of interviews. I think you're right. Plus, you could talk to the assistant coaches now, too. Plus, it's this time of year. I don't know. I think they'll pick up in time, but like when Saban hit the podium, man, my goodness. Or when he was at an event, it was just like skyrocketing. I don't know. I'm going to continue to track those numbers. It's important for me. But the team is putting in work. I love to see it. There is another image right here. Look at this. Anybody know who this is? Raise your hand inside the comment box if you know who this is. Look at this. This is plates on plates. Okay. Who can do the quick math on that real quick? How much is that? That is CJ Dupree, I believe. We don't always talk about the tight end room. It's kind of a position that always gets forgotten about. It's kind of like people don't talk about tight ends. People don't talk about special teams. Well, I'm going to talk about tight ends and special teams real quick, okay? And I'm going to tell you why you should be really excited about the tight ends and why you should be excited about the special teams play. Okay, let me just remind you, in case you're out there and you're just like, okay, the team revolves around Jalen Milroe and I guess Malachi Moore and I guess this guy named Keon Sabb on defense. Hold on. The tight end plays a very versatile role here at the University of Alabama. And the thing about the tight end room, when you look to Alabama, and this is CJ Dupree right here, played in 540 snaps last year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Don't get upset that Amari Niblack went to Texas. I'm going to tell you why, okay? Because when you look to this Alabama tight end room, it's a very good tight end room that has a lot of capable tight ends. I don't think, in my opinion, there's a dominating tight end in this room, and I don't think you need a really dominant tight end within this particular system, but I think you have tight ends that are more than capable to do the job for Alabama, whether blocking, whether 12 personnel, whatever the case is. Efron, what's up, man? I see you inside the comment box. Good morning to you, and I appreciate you. Ken O, what's going on, man? Miami fan accusing other teams of buying players. I was surprised to see how much Mario Cristobal was making because the results just haven't been there. But man, they certainly have a ton of cash. Man, they're top 3 in the ACC this year? I'm gonna talk about Florida State's schedule and Texas' schedule here on the back end. I want to get your feedback. But for the tight end perspective, you have CJ Dupree who comes in, who's more than a capable tight end. Okay, I would say he's like a balanced type tight end. Okay. One of the tight ends that I'm extremely excited about is Robbie Oots. And what is an H-back? When you see like an H-back, you're like, what the hell is that? An H-back can be a very key player within your offense because they can almost float in the backfield and be an extra blocker. You can put them inside of a goal line situation and they can move people. Robbie Oots is like 265 pounds and he's athletic. Okay. Don't forget about Danny Lewis, 6'5", 260 pounds. I always feel like you ever seen like Charlie Brown, like the kid who waits out in the pumpkin patch? What was his name? Linus, right? Waiting for this pumpkin patch, and I'm always waiting for this tight end to come and like be the tight end that I've been looking for. I don't know if that's going to be Danny Lewis, but I certainly believe that he's capable of being that guy. Okay, you have Jay Lindsey coming in, and then you have Josh Cuevas, who came from Washington to Alabama. There's your tight end room, and you're like, where's Caleb Odom? Why aren't you talking about Caleb Odom? You're sleeping on Caleb Odom. He's playing wide receiver. So he came in and he played kind of tight end wide receiver at the high school position. And one of the first time I saw and even heard about Caleb Odom, I turned on the TV and I saw him scoop. I kid you not. I turned on the TV and I saw him make a one-handed catch in the end zone. I was like, damn, that dude's got some paws. Okay. So then he comes over here and he switches to wide receiver, which is amazing because we're talking about the wide receivers. And every time we mention the wide receivers, you're talking about Jeremy Bernard, Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, Emmanuel Henderson. The list kind of goes on and on and on, right? Well, Caleb Odom, you talk about Ryan Williams, of course. And you're like, where's Ryan Williams? He's getting here soon. Should be here in a couple days. Same thing with Rico Scott and Amari Jefferson. Well, Caleb Odom is also a freshman. He's already been here, and he moved to the wide receivers. So, man, I saw him out on the field. It's easy to hype up freshmen when they're just here. The guy looked pretty damn good to me. Like, elite, special. He's good. No Speed is saying Oots was trucking people last year. Love that dude. Remember when he was trucking people against Kansas State when they threw the football to him a couple times? That was 2 seasons ago in the Sugar Bowl. Man, that was crazy. I love that dude. Robbie Oots is a beast. Okay. This is Ty Simpson putting in work. I like that bucket hat in the back and that Nike shirt too. I like that look. Okay. You have some prospects coming in. Okay, so I'm gonna open up the phone lines. I got Ty and Merrill coming in at 9 a.m. and then tonight at 7 p.m. I got Coach Sean and Jarek. And the way that the schedule works out is those guys can work in the evening time. So there's no like special formula. It's literally like who is available in the morning and who is available at night. That's how that schedule works out. So don't think like too much of it. There's like some secret sauce. It's like, and you're like, hey, Kyle, why aren't you working? Well, guess what? I have full custody of my children and I'm a parent first above anything. Yes. And I provide the financial and emotional stability for my kids. And so I pour everything into my children. So a lot of people have asked, they're like, why aren't you on the? Because I have 2 kids and they need me. They need their father every single day. So that's where I'm at. At night, making dinner, barbecuing, driving my son to Chick-fil-A, picking up my daughter, taking her to dance. So that's where I'm at. All right. Let's talk about these prospects coming in. This is important stuff, okay? For those out there, I think we only have Bama. I love Bama Hater. Bama Hater comes in, speaks his mind, and clearly doesn't like Alabama. And there's a lot of people who don't like Alabama. We get that, PTSD from what Coach Saban did to everybody since 2006. I get it, right? It's probably difficult to sleep if, you've seen Alabama football just run through your programs years and years and years. And now Alabama basketball is doing the same thing, is going to start doing the same thing, right? They're already doing it. Okay, so whoa, I almost ended the stream. So when you look to the prospects that Coach Kalen DeBoer is bringing in, I have been thoroughly impressed with what he's been able to do from class of 2024, 2025, and 2026. The prospects that are also in play right now are pretty damn impressive, okay? Derek Meadows, you seen this guy? 6'5", 185. I am the type of offensive-minded person that I want big, tall wide receivers. Like my dream wide receiver is Caleb Odom. Okay, that's it. I loved how Saban would recruit his wide receivers. Although he never really had tall wide receivers. Right? I think the tallest one I think we can probably agree on is what Terrell Shavers or Cam Sims, who was probably floating around 6'5", 6'6". Jeff is saying, I'm going to be honest with you, Kyle. I don't know a lot of these prospects because he goes west. You know what? So Jeff, when you're done with this, show, look at the recruiting landscape of Coach Kalen DeBoer, because he definitely goes after players from the West Coast. But what's been amazing to see is he's really used the entire country. So when you look at Bishop Gordon, okay, I minimized the sponsor banner. Bishop Gorman, one of the most established programs in the West. In Vegas, they're almost unbeatable. There's been a couple schools that will beat them from time to time within Las Vegas, within the city, but you know who they are. They run things. So 6'5", 185 pounds, and I believe Derek Meadows will be coming to Alabama at the back end of summer. I love it. And right now, so these RPMs, and this is On3's interface. I like how On3 like aesthetically looks to me. That's why I use them. I'm not paid by On3. I don't work for them. I don't work for anybody. I work for myself. But right now it says Notre Dame. I don't know how many people have submitted RPMs. That's a prediction machine to Notre Dame. I have no idea until you hear it from like a Whit Fong or like Andrew Bone or, one of these big time names. Like then I'm not really, buying into that prediction machine. Okay. And then you look to this other prospect. So, okay, so this guy, 4-star, probably closer to a 5-star. He's the number one player in Nevada at the wide receiver position. Then we talked about this guy yesterday, okay? And I get it. Again, to Jeff's point, he's on the West, okay, in Dejon Lee. I don't think regionally it has anything to do with it. I just think that, yes, he does have connections in the West, but he also has coaches within his staff that have connections all over the country. Just look at who he's already brought in. Look at how he's recruited thus far out the gates within also the state of Alabama, okay? Dejon Lee, top of everybody's list. Who doesn't want Dejon Lee, right? Who doesn't want a little extra mayo? Who doesn't want in some extra mustard, right? Dejon Lee, this guy is a freak. He's the number one player in California. He's the number 5 corner in the country. I'm surprised. I think I said this yesterday. I'm surprised that he's the number 30th player overall in the country. Wow, right? Damn, this must be a pretty damn good class. All right, we keep it rolling. And he's coming in as well. And I think clearly those are his top 4 schools. I think Hayes Fawcett, who does all the graphics, they're amazing. I think he tweeted out that those are I think the final 4 schools included Alabama, Washington, Georgia, and I think Texas A&M. I didn't see USC on there. I could be mistaken. Somebody from the undefeated probably knows. All right. We talked about this young man as well. Keelan Russell. Okay, Keelan Russell, who is that? He's a quarterback that is currently committed to SMU. SMU is probably trying every single thing that they can do to hang on to him. I don't think they're going to be able to hang on to him. He's coming to Alabama. And when I talk about players coming to Alabama this summer, get excited for recruiting probably within the middle of June. Because Coach Kalen DeBoer is now established. He has his office set up. He can bring guys in and he can showcase them Tuscaloosa now that he has ground underneath him. Before, he was probably more in reaction mode, although he doesn't look like a guy who's been stressing out too much. He looks like he's handled this very well. He has a great support staff behind him, and he's been doing really good. So in recruiting, right? Price just went up, probably. Kyle, I asked earlier, why did he commit to SMU? That's a good question. I'm not sure. That was kind of interesting to me as well. It's like when I pull him up, I'm like, I committed to SMU. That's interesting for sure. Out of Duncanville, Duncanville, you look at the high school football around that area, it's amazing. So to me, Coach Kalen DeBoer, and kind of getting to Jeff's point about just looking from the West Coast, I think he's done a really good job regionally. Of course, one of the great things that Coach Saban did was he maintained ties to the Lone Star State. I mean, he had that pipeline. I remember him always talking about Texas high school football and maintaining those relationships with Texas high school football coaches. He did a great job. Like Texas, I felt was a really strong pipeline for Alabama football. Same thing with Florida, same thing with Georgia, but you got to keep the prospects coming in from Texas. You can't, look at the prospects that are currently on Alabama's football team from Texas. Can you guys list them? Jalen Milroe, certainly one of them comes to mind. He reminds me of Jaden Daniels. Kendrick, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Debbie, what's going on? I appreciate you joining. And Debbie says, I love the hunger of this team has. They all seem to have something to prove, some individually, but all as a team. And I love the tight ends that have talent we need. No, they are not Brock Bowers, but spot on. I think you're right. I don't think there's an overly dynamic tight end in that room. I pray that it's Danny Lewis somehow, but even if they're not, I think they're capable to do whatever they need within this system. Appreciate you being here, Debbie. Lynn Shannyfield, what's up, man? Kyle, this is the guy, Keelan Russell, I want the most at Alabama. He played at a strong high school. He played a strong high school football schedule. I can't even imagine the talent for Duncanville and who they've been able to play like during the season. No, it's an elite program. It's an elite area. Keelan Russell, I've seen his tape. Really like what he brings. He is coming for an official visit to the University of Alabama, and I think it's going to be really hard for SMU to continue to keep him. Bama hater, I'll get to you in just a second, man. I appreciate you being here. Okay, let's look at some other prospects that are coming in. You also have Dawson Merritt. Now, let me ask you, Undefeated, inside the comment box. Do you feel that Dawson Merritt, I haven't seen this. Maybe you can help me out with this as well. Have you seen a commitment timeline for Dawson Merritt? Has he announced when he's going to announce? I would think that he's probably going to be one of the next prospects to commit to the University of Alabama. He is a 4-star linebacker, 205 out of Kansas. So we went from Nevada to California, Texas to Kansas. Anybody have intel on when Dawson plans to commit? I think he's going to commit to Alabama. So I don't make predictions. I have no idea what these 17-year-olds are going to do, right? I have a teenager, so I understand where they are at mentally. But I think from this perspective, I think it makes sense that Dawson comes to Alabama. If you've checked out his highlight tape, and we'll run some tape on some of these guys in another show, but I really like what he brings to the table as well, 4-star. So Coach Kalen DeBoer continues to recruit at a very high level, and I think if you're coming to Alabama and you want to join this team, you look at the overall coaches. Jeff says his overall grade was 93, which is good. Yeah, outstanding for sure. I like we talked about this new energy, but if you zoom into the coaches that are currently on board on the defensive side of the ball, they're all young. I mean, how old is Kane Womack? Is he early 40s, right? Mo Lindquist, Colin Hitchler, linebackers coach, right? He's young as well. Everybody's young. Freddie Roach, he's young. So I look at the development, and these guys are bright. I love the fact that you could talk to the assistant coaches now because you get to understand the mindset of just how good these coaches are. Jeff, you're 47 now? You're not old, man. All right. Anthony Jones, come back to the state of Alabama. He will be on campus sooner than later, okay, for a visit. You look at the talent out of Mobile right now. It's crazy. Right now, there's a ton of talent. Who from here is from LA, Lower Alabama? Kane is 37. That's crazy. And Jimmy Lee Baker says that Dawson will be in town June 20th. Okay. Who lives in LA? Jimmy Lee Baker, you down there, right? The high school talent in LA. Mike, okay, so Saraland, okay? The high school football talent in that area is on fire. Even look at Gulf Shores. Didn't Gulf Shores just win the championship as well? Yeah, right? So am I wrong? Look at LA in the high school football talent that is on fire right now. It's crazy, the talent down in LA. So you have Andrew Jones, and you've had some prospects come out of St. Paul's 100%. You could probably name some inside the comment box. He's a 2026 guy, but I think it still is important to facilitate that 2026 class. And you have 2 prospects in right now on the defensive side of the ball, right? You had the 2 corners come in, but that 2026 is crazy. And Jeff, you're making a really good point, man. You got to keep the in-state prospects. And that is one thing. I mentioned Coach Saban took care of the prospects from Texas. Well, Coach Saban did an amazing job at taking care of the in-state talent. And you look at where the in-state talent has already chosen to go. I mean, Coach Kalen DeBoer off to a hell of a start, right? And Ryan Williams could have went to Auburn. Antonio Coleman could have stayed locked into Auburn. Derek Smith out of Selma, he could have went to Auburn. All those guys chose Alabama, right? C-Dub, is that right? South Mississippi hitting hard on the high school football front? That's what's up. That whole region, man. Then you go even into like the Bayou in Louisiana. It's crazy. Louisiana high school football talent, that's amazing to me too. Like Louisiana, I mean, you know who came out of Louisiana? Amite, right? Smitty. Quick segue real quick while I mentioned Smitty's name. My favorite wide receiver. You saw that he just bought that house for $700,000, which is an incredible amount of money. Maybe not so much when you're making, $50 million. Someone said it's a major flex to buy a house for $700,000 when you're a multi-millionaire. I 1,000,000% agree. If you missed last week's Friday show, I had Donnie Lee Jr. on, who knows all those guys, right? He said that what people don't know is that Devonta Smith is getting ready to buy a house back in Louisiana, like downsized, like for like $200,000 with a ton of land with nobody around it, so he can just kind of be by himself. The dude's a special person, man, special cat. That guy, like from the mindset, man. I'll always remember for Devonta Smith, there was recently this interview where he dropped a pass last season, and the reporter's like, man, what happened on that play? You didn't catch it. And he's like, and Devonta Smith just turns around. He's like, I dropped the damn ball. Coldest interviews, like 1 second interviews from Devonta Smith. So Anthony Jones coming in, class of 2026, out of LA. Okay. Before I have Ty and Coach Merrill jump on at 9 a.m. Central Time, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys for being fan funders of this YouTube channel and for rocking with me right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Thank you. Honestly, I appreciate you guys. I understand you guys keep my lights on, so thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I was talking to my son about this yesterday. In parenting, right? It's easy both ways for a parent, but for adolescent or a younger child to express frustration, anger. It's easy for us, I think, as humans to express those emotions easy. I feel that it's sometimes hard for us as humans, maybe for men more so than women, I'm not sure on that, to express gratitude and appreciation and be grateful like we are when we show our frustrations. You see what I'm saying? Like sometimes, I'm not sure why, but it's hard to be like, you know what? I appreciate you. Thank you. I love you. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why, but kind of interesting. So anyways, I just wanted to make it a point to say thank you. I appreciate you guys being here. It really means a lot to me. Looking at Texas, the Longhorns football schedule, I was cruising social media before the show, and I saw that Pro Football Focus put out Texas' schedule. I always like to talk football schedules on here. It's fun to look at the schedules. I look at football schedules all the time, okay? And this one, of course, is always going to be interesting to talk about because, Daniel Hill's from Meridian? Yeah, Daniel Hill's a beast, man. Yeah, Meridian's not too far. You know, when you live in Tuscaloosa, I mean, Mississippi's just like a stone's throw away. I mean, it really is. And I might be at another golf tournament June 7th and 8th at Pearl River in Mississippi. I don't know like where it's at. Is it Dancing Rabbit? Is that the one? I don't know. But yeah, I've been to Mississippi a bunch of times. I've been to Starkville. I've been to Tupelo. Did I say it right? I went to Tupelo. That's like the cleanest city I've ever been to. Seriously, there wasn't a piece of trash like floating down the street. And I think it won like America's top city, Tupelo. Have you guys been to Tupelo? All right. And I still haven't been down to like the casinos in Mississippi. I don't gamble. Of course I'll play like roulette or some blackjack, maybe some poker or whatever when I am in Vegas, but I've never been to Mississippi. There's casinos in New Mexico where I'm from on like the reservations for sure. And they're really nice. All right. Let me ask you, Biloxi better than Vegas? People like Biloxi. I've never been. All right, so let's look at this Texas schedule real quick. I'm gonna run through it, and then I want to ask you how many games Texas is going to win. Okay, this is a graphic by Pro Football Focus. Okay, Colorado State. Do they win that game? Put a W if you think that they beat Colorado State. That one's too easy. Okay, how about this one? Will Texas beat Michigan on the road? Texas win on the road at Michigan. I'm going to say yes. Okay. Oh, Lynn, Cedar Ridge. Whew, that course was hard. That was the hardest golf course I've ever played. With all those drops and those elevations, it was a beautiful course. I'm glad the brakes worked on the golf cart. That was crazy. I've never seen elevation drops like that. Wild. Okay, so everyone thinks that Texas beats Michigan. Okay, UTSA, they win that game as well. Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, they win that. Man, you know what? Besides going to Michigan, which I think will be moderately challenging, even considering the coaching change, they still got guys, okay? They're still going to beat Michigan, I think, on the road. So we get to the Red Rover rivalry game, which is now in the SEC. And that game takes place, right? Cotton Bowl. Do you think they beat Oklahoma? Put a W inside the comment box if you think they beat Oklahoma. I'm going to say yes. That would, C-Dub is saying Michigan lost too much. This game against Oklahoma gets squirrely. I just last year I watched that game. I felt those are those type of rivalry games that a ball hits a player in the helmet and it bounces off and the guy catches it. Just weird things happen. Somehow Quinn is out. Arch Manning comes in. He gets off to a hot start. Oklahoma comes back and wins by a 62-yard. It's one of those weird games. That's a tough back-to-back stretch. I would imagine there's an open week between Oklahoma and Georgia. I don't know if there is, but man, I think that's a hell of a back-to-back, right? Okay. I might change mine. I might go loss to Oklahoma. Bama hater, that's a spread. Is Oklahoma is favored by 1 against Alabama this season out in Norman. Okay, so now let's say they have 1 loss at this point. Will they beat Georgia? Alabama plays Georgia earlier in the season. Texas plays Georgia, I guess, in that second half of their schedule. Type Y, yes, if you think that Texas will beat Georgia. Type N if you think Georgia wins. You guys are saying Georgia wins this game? So loss versus UGA. So theoretically, Texas could be a 2-loss team at this point in time after being undefeated. It's a pretty good schedule. Against Michigan, the returning champs, and then Oklahoma, Georgia. Okay, I like that schedule. The thing is, we have to remember this, okay? They have Georgia at home. That game is in Austin. That game will probably be college football, game days headquarters. Coach Saban probably going to be in Austin. I don't know. That'll probably play. Do we have Jarvis on or somebody? What is the early line on Georgia versus Texas? I am looking for the early line between Georgia and Texas. Then you go to Vanderbilt. That's a W. You play Florida, who I don't even know if Billy Napier is there at Florida at this point in time, considering their back end schedule. You go up and you play Arkansas and the Hogs. You play Kentucky and you go on the road to Texas A&M. I still think this could be an interesting game on the back end. Okay, just hear me out. Okay, the back end game against Texas A&M. I have no idea. F1 Austin weekend 2. Oh my God, that's gonna be crazy. So hear me out. This game against Texas A&M is going to be interesting because of the fact, you know, you got a new team. They're going to be playing for coach. Kyle Field, always rocking. Texas coming in. This will be Texas A&M Super Bowl, right? The Texas A&M will probably be playing this game to like get into a bowl game. You see what I'm saying? And it's at Kyle Field. I could see Texas even slipping up right there. Byron saying W. Okay. I'm just saying, I think it's going to be challenging just on the back end, right? Man, that's going to be crazy. F1 weekend. Man. Austin, man. That city is booming. I haven't been to Austin in a minute. I would love to go check it out. All right. Here we go. Let's move on to Florida State's schedule. Okay, so we just went to Texas, who is now joining the SEC. They played Michigan. They played Georgia. They played Oklahoma. Okay. Now you look at Florida State. Coming off a one-loss season last year. I got Ty Hayes and Merrill coming up at 9 a.m. right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Let's talk Florida State. Mike Norvell. Let me ask you this, and this is another graphic by Pro Football Focus. Let's start with just Mike Norvell. Do you feel that Mike Norvell is one of the rising coaches in college football? Type Y if you think so. I'm talking Mike Norvell. Or do you think that, you know, maybe last season was maybe like a one-hit wonder type of year based off their schedule, based off the ACC, other elements? What do you think of Mike Norvell? And it seemed to me like there was talks about him becoming Alabama's football coach if Kalen DeBoer wasn't named the coach. I don't know. You know, we'll know in like 5 years, 10 years or whatever, but it's interesting to think about. I mean, he had Jameis Winston at quarterback. Florida State, Daniel saying Florida State going 13-0 again, having played nobody. Okay, the next Jimbo, he's a product of a weak conference. I kind of feel I like this, right? Bama Hater is saying we'll lose 7 to 8 games and get Norvell fired. Okay, let's go through their schedule. Okay, overrated. All right, I might be with you on this. Okay, Georgia Tech, W. Boston College, a game that they should have lost last year. They will win that game as well. Mike Norvell has been at Memphis before. They will win that game. They play Man, their first 4 games are all in is that first game in Atlanta or something like that? Like for like the, you know, opening Peach Bowl or something like that? Is like the Chick-fil-A Classic, or is that game in Tallahassee as well? 4 home games in a row? Then they play SMU. Are you like, okay. Then you take on Clemson, a team that should have beat again. Clemson should have beat Florida State last year. We all knew this. They missed a field goal at the end and then go into overtime, and Florida State comes out on top. They go to Duke. It has a new football coach. They'll win that game. Bama Hater, here's your time, man, to ruin everyone's parade. Who wins, Florida State or Miami? Right? It's in Coral Gables. Down in Miami. Maybe the battle for the ACC. I don't know. I'm excited about that game. The rest of the schedule, pretty easy. Actually, look at this. Let's look at this back end real quick. Let's look at this. Okay, you have Clemson. Then you go Duke. I mean, Duke can kind of punch above their belt. Actually, I think Duke was beating Florida State last year as well, before Florida State came back. Then you go to Miami. Look, North Carolina, I don't know. Notre Dame, there you go. Here you go. Look, I think Notre Dame is so overrated. Every single year, they're overrated. I think they're overrated now. I think they'll be overrated forever, right? Oh, yeah, I forgot that Bill O'Brien's at Boston College. Yeah, Bill O'Brien. I forgot about that. I would have loved for him to be the OC, though, at Ohio State. That would have been Netflix, right? All day. Old Rock is like, take a look at Miami's schedule. Looks more like a 6A high school schedule. All right, we'll take a look next time, Old Rock. I appreciate it. So Notre Dame, see, I think they lose this game because they go on the road to Notre Dame, South Bend. It'll be freezing at this time. This game will be in the snow, maybe, right? If it snows anymore up there. And then you play Charleston Southern, and then you play Florida, who will be on their last leg because of the gauntlet that they have played. So, I don't know. Florida State probably wins. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, man. 8, 9. Man, this team, they could win a lot of games. Yeah, they could win a lot of games. But I like I said, I think they're always overrated. Okay, a couple more things till we get to 9 a.m. when we have Ty and Coach Milroe coming on. All right, this is Georgia's wide receiver room. And the reason I bring this up is because I was curious to see which wide receivers that Georgia had coming back. I really did. Like in my workout group that I always talk about, one of the guys is a Georgia fan. And we were running together, and I was like, hey, just curious, like, what does Georgia have coming back from the wide receiver standpoint? So here are the guys that Pro Football Focus has. Let me ask you this. When you look to these wide receivers returning for Georgia, who is the most dangerous wide receiver right here? And I'll ask Ty that same question. So, Ty, give a quick look at these wide receivers from Georgia. Dominic Lovett, Thomas, Aaron Smith, Lennon Humphreys, Young. I haven't really had a chance to kind of look to the Georgia wide receivers, so I was kind of interested in this. We all know who the quarterback is coming back, right? I don't know. It's kind of interesting to look at for me, so I'll give you a quick glance. Kendrick is saying that it's Kobe Young. Ben Allen is saying that it is Aaron Smith. Huh. I'm not sure. I have to ask. I'm gonna bring Ty in right now. Ty, who's the most dangerous wide receiver out of that group right there?
Oh man, I'd probably say it is in between, in my opinion, Smith or Young. Ra Thomas has got some ability. He averaged over 15 per last season. Listen, I like their receiving room. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, this might be the best wide receiver room in the country. I disagree with that. I don't think it's the best wide receiver room in the country, all due respect to Georgia. But I do look at this wide receiver room and I'm like, yeah, no, there's some guys in there that I think are pretty talented. There's one of them, and I can't remember whether it's Dylan Bell, but there's one of them that, like, I think has really, really high upside. As I was kind of watching through their high school stuff, I was like, man, that guy could do some good work there. But my biggest question there has more to do with the Bobo offense, because the Bobo offense is what I like to call, like, I don't know the right word. Jake and I have had this conversation so many times. The best way I can think of it is it's like a factory, right? Like, it's very, like, methodical. Like, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. It's a good offense, but it's not one where I'm like, oh, well, they're going to have 2,000-yard wide receivers, right? But they do have a nice wide receiver room.
Before I bounce and let you guys get to your segment, this was interesting to look at. This is the Texas Longhorn. We always talk schedules here. I'll talk schedules all day long with you, and we're going to look at Miami's schedule at another point in time, because I was asked to look at Miami's schedule. I'm out of time on my segment, but when we look to this schedule before you go, what's up, Coach Milroe? I appreciate you joining us this morning. Let's get some feedback, some dialogue going about this schedule. Colorado State on the road against Michigan, Texas San Antonio, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, the Red River rivalry game.
I know, it's a tongue twister.
Holy crap, man!
Triple R.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many videos I've had to stop.
I said that clean earlier.
Yeah, I've had to stop so many videos and go back to the top because of that tongue twister.
Man, that was wild.
Could you imagine if I tried to say that? Like, yeah, I had like partially deaf with a speech impediment. Man, I'm going to call it the Triple R shootout, dude. There you
go. Georgia, but the game is in Austin, which is interesting. And someone said that's the same F1 Formula One weekend.
Nino and I were talking about going, and then all of a sudden Nino was like, "Hey man, we're not going to that game." And I was like, "Oh, why not?" He's like, "First off, it's going to be a crazy environment, like great, but
Yeah.
F1 is that weekend." He's like, "Austin is going to be tanked." And I was like, "Yeah, fair enough."
Wow.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt, Florida will be kind of on its last leg there, kind of in the middle of their gauntlet. Arkansas, Kentucky, that Texas A&M one. Look, I said this earlier. Like, just hear me out. Like, Texas A&M, they're going to be like fighting to get into a bowl game. New coach, games in College Station. Texas, who knows where they are at that point in time. I could very well see them overlooking that game. It's a challenging environment, no matter what the record is of Texas A&M. Merrill, I'll start with you real quick. Kind of give me a quick glance over of Texas' schedule. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's not the hardest schedule. I think it's kind of middle of the road schedule, but I do think you have trap games in there, especially with all the hype that Texas is getting right now. And I will say, from a trap game standpoint, I think you really look at, again, everyone wants to. Florida's getting a lot of heat, right? Florida's getting a lot of heat, but Florida is going to be a trap game for almost every one of the big teams that they play. And the reason is people do not realize there's a lot of productivity still coming back for Florida. All right. Like I'm high on Florida. They are my team to watch for this next year. You look at overall, like, just their schedule, who they're playing. It is a lot of work, but you also look at what, and this is a big if because of everything that is going on. We could go into a lot of deep stuff with Florida. We're talking about a schedule right now. Okay. But you look at what Mertz did. You look at, there's 2 wide receivers who are production wise that rank in the top 10 coming back within the nation. Florida's a trap game for a lot of people. So that's where I say, on this schedule, Florida, and I think you probably would again, you'd look at Kentucky. Kentucky's a dangerous team. Texas A&M will be one. Okay, going into, if we look at Texas and everyone wants to judge them from a playoff standpoint and say they're going to be in the playoffs, A&M will be that team that again could sneak in and get them. So, it's not like the hardest schedule because, I mean, if you really look at it, you get Michigan really early, right? Mississippi State, what are they going to be like? It's going to be a big question mark there now, right? I think Levy's going to do a good job, but it's a big question mark. Oklahoma, I think they're going to be sneaky. I think they're going to be actually really good. Losing Levy is hard, but at the same time, I still think they're going to be good. And then you have Georgia, and then you get, feels like a break, and then you go into that Final Four little SEC gauntlet, because Vanderbilt, I can't sit there and give them all this like hype right now.
Vandy?
What do you think, Ty?
Listen, I think when you look at the schedule, I don't know about Michigan, right? Michigan has to replace so much. I'm not really looking at them as like a mega threat to Texas. I think that the early part of their schedule, they're fine. But then you get into Oklahoma. And right now, as we sit here and talk, when I was watching Texas last year, and even after they beat Alabama, I remember doing content with Nino and Fanatics Perspective. And I was saying, like, hey, I really want to run the game back later on in the year. Not to say that I think it's a guaranteed thing Alabama wins, but I think there are ways Alabama can be successful. What I told them then was actually what rang true in the Red River rivalry, where I was like, hey, y'all's secondary is susceptible to the deep ball. Like, I think that there's actually a fairly easy plan of attack on the secondary. And as the year went on, it come to find out Texas's front 7 is fantastic, but their secondary was suspect. They lose one of their starters to the transfer portal because he and the secondary coach don't get along. They lose another contributor to the transfer portal because he and the secondary coach don't get along. They did get a fantastic addition with Andrew Makuba coming in from Clemson. That guy was great at Clemson. Like, he was really, really good at Clemson. He's going to make an immediate impact at Texas. He's from Austin. I'm excited to see him lace up. But, we talk about Georgia, and I saw that post about Georgia maybe having the best wide receiver room. Oklahoma has got a sneaky, phenomenal wide receiver room. Andrell Anthony coming back from injury, right? He was a big piece of that offense last year before he went down. You have Gibson and Anderson, who are both 6'4+ speed guys. You have Dion Burks, who can straight up fly. You have Jaquez Petaway, who can straight up fly. And you have Jaleel Farouk, who's kind of a do-it-all chess piece that Levy used in a variety of ways. Plus, at quarterback, you have the former Elite 11 MVP, former Gatorade Player of the Year, 5-star out of Denton Guyer High School, Jackson Arnold, who's got a big arm. And guys, one thing I've often said, at Denton Guyer, he was clocked at 21 miles per hour at 6'2", 225.
That's pretty
The
good.
guy can move. Like, he is a dangerous quarterback. I'm interested in the Seth Luttrell offense because, Jake, to your point, it's not Levy, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to do some of the things that Levy did. But I think that Oklahoma game could be tricky. If Texas can't stop that passing attack, it could get tricky. So we'll see. And then Georgia, obviously, that's going to be a tough game. And ladies and gentlemen, do not forget about Texas A&M. There's a lot of emotion in that game. They haven't played in a long time. And when you look at the layout of this, it goes Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, A&M. That's a sneaky, tough finish to the schedule. It really is. And then the stack of OU Georgia, that's also pretty tricky. So it's in my opinion, a fairly easy schedule, but some of the placements within the schedule make it, like Merrill said, to where I would upgrade it from easy to this is a middle of the road schedule because of the placements of the games.
Yeah, it's always fun to look at, future schedules, particularly Texas and Oklahoma, because they are joining the SEC. It's going to be a lot on the line. And you're right. I think you put it in a really good perspective, Ty, in terms of like it. I think the schedule is certainly navigatable, but I think when you look to, games like that, I don't know if there's a bye week in between Oklahoma and Georgia. I would imagine that there is. But if there's not, my goodness, in the back end with Texas A&M, I think it's going to be tough. Michigan on the road, that'll be must-see TV, but Michigan lost a lot. Still a lot of emotion, and Michigan's going to still, they're going to want to prove that they can still play up at that level. So Texas coming in, that will be kind of their early season Super Bowl. So love it, man. But you guys have a good segment. I appreciate you guys joining me for my segment this morning. Please drop a thumbs up. Please support these guys like we would support me. Appreciate you being a member of the Undefeated. Coach Merrill, Coach Ty, take you guys home. And tonight, Coach Sean, Coach Merrill tonight, Coach Merrill, and Merrill, I might slide you in if you're available. Jericho,
yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll just play it. I'll play it all. That's the thing, guys. If you guys notice, like I just kind of start popping in all over.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, we'll see how that probably would work out.
All right. So we'll talk on Slack. But you guys do your thing, and please support these guys, and I'll catch up with you guys soon.
Ooh.
Thank you very much, man. Good to
dude.
Sit here and have the morning session with Kyle as always. How you doing today, man?
You know what, Ty? I'm doing good. One thing I got to tell you is like yesterday, my floater can play multiple positions. I'm versatile, Rocketown. Versatile, Rocketown with the comment of a floater. I don't like saying like hearing floater. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a floater. I'm versatile. Multi-dimensional athlete, right? Let's put it that way. Not a floater, dude. Come on, Rocketown. Don't start my morning like that. That's not the day I want to roll with. And then I saw C-Dub. What up, man? I see you in here, Jeremy Sanders. What up, man? How you doing, Jeremy? Yeah, Jeff. What's up, Jeff? Versatile. You guys are laughing now. No bye week, baby. C-Dub.
Yeah, that's really tough then. If there's no bye week between the Oklahoma and Georgia game, that's and that's what I meant about Texas's schedule, man. I don't look at it and think to myself like, hey, this is a gauntlet schedule. But I do look at it and say the placements of some of these, like I bet if you ask Sark, he would kind of, looking at it now, kind of rather have Kentucky as one of those first few games so that they can get that back end break, if you will, from maybe a Colorado State. That there's some tricky placements within that schedule.
That's what I thought. Like when you look at that schedule, it's weird, right? Because I have like mixed feelings on Sark. That's the hard part with me is like I want to give Texas love, but at the same time, and I love the fact that like you got DeBoer who just owns Sarkisian, right? And then you got, I mean, he owns him right now with 2 years in a row. If everyone wants to get on him with far less talent, right? One of them for a national championship. So I will say though that they do. There's a lot of things about Texas where you're like, all right, man, like let's see what you guys can get back to some power days of glory. But you look at their schedules, and it is very unique, very unique. Oh man, it's Corey. What's up, Corey? How you doing, man?
Well, and on top of that, man, like one, Texas is going to have a great offensive line.
Yeah.
They might have a top 10, top 15 pick on that offensive line in Kelvin Banks, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm counting down the days until he goes to the NFL. That guy is good. That guy's real good. Then they have Campbell on the interior. So they got two really good linemen. Their running back room, they lost Savion Red to the transfer portal. They lost Jonathan Brooks to the NFL. They still have Blue, and they still have CJ Baxter, who was a 5-star running back. And CJ Baxter looks good, right? Looks real good. Jimmy Lee, you're thinking of Jeff Banks.
Which one?
That wasn't Sark. That was Jeff Banks. Jimmy Lee saying, sorry, that wasn't Sark. That's Jeff Banks.
Sark had some other issues. I'm not going to go into that though.
No, but I have respect for anybody that can battle through their demons, right? Like, and come out on the other side. That's why I've always had a level of respect for Sark, because I'm like, hey, man, you owned it. You came to Bama. You embraced the, what it took to get back on the right path. I got nothing but respect for that, man. I certainly hope he does well, just because I have a lot of friends that do content that are Texas guys, and I'd like to see them do well. Not every week until they play Bama, and then obviously, and then the Oklahoma one, I'm kind of up in the air because our group is 2 Texas guys, 2 Oklahoma guys, and then me, the Alabama guy. So Red River, that's the origin of Blaze, ladies and gentlemen. The origin of Blaze was this year during the Red River rivalry, where we needed an impartial ref, and Blaze just so happened to be manifested. But
you know who Blaze needs to meet?
Who?
He needs to meet my cousin, dude. My cousin, man, Jackbo. Yeah, Jackbo Merrill, dude. Yeah,
hey,
Jackbo, baby. Yeah, my southern cousin Jackbo.
You might have to plan that one out. But there is 2 areas for Texas that I'm curious about. One, their secondary, because that was not good last year. Let me look it up real fast.
No, but to get on your points out real quick, I do. That's a good point as far as. I think that was also, we look back on like Saban and what he was able to do for coaches from like, a lot of people called it like coaching rehab, right? For what Saban, when guys are able to come and fix some things, whether it was
Jones, Sark.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, like Lane Kiffin, to an extent, right? But I'm just saying, like from their coaching aspect, right, of just getting them back into the I guess fixing some of their processes, but also getting them more discipline, more structure, and letting them kind of revamp themselves, right? So you got to just say, I mean, he was very much a guy. He was, like brutal, but a guy about second chances a lot. And I love the way he went about that and making sure these guys did have the success they needed. And that's why I give a big round of applause to Sark, I guess, in Texas. I mean, but I think it more so bothers me from the standpoint of his haircut. That's all. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing. But no, I do want him to have a lot of success.
Yeah, Jimmy, I Googled it. It's definitely Jeff Banks. Like, I have the articles right here. It's definitely Jeff Banks. Plus, I know personally some things about that story. It's Jeff Banks. Yeah. Sark's wife is, her name, I think, is L'Oreal Sarkisian.
I'm not sure.
But that's not, the monkey is Jeff Banks's girlfriend. Brandon Wilkins with the 1999 saying, real question. How good are we going to be? Honest opinion. Will we win 10 games and make the playoffs? Good morning, Ty. Been busy at work. Roll Tide. I'll let you start this one off, Jake.
How good are we honestly going to be? Will we win 10 games and make the playoffs? I 100% guarantee that one. Like that, if the house was against Bama, right? Like we look at the odds and they're all against Bama. I would bet all my money on that, and I'd make a lot of money. Matty P, good morning to you too, man. The thing is with, I think your question, right, is will we win 10 games? I feel really good about it. Will we make the playoffs? That was a 100% yes, especially with a 12-team playoff. The real question is, do we go undefeated, or do we drop? I think really, do we drop one, and at the most, do we drop two? I think that's probably the best question out of it all, because you look at what we're returning, and Brandon, good to see him in here, man. If you caught some of our previous stuff ever, we've talked so much on different aspects of why, but just, I guess, a quick summary, because I could hit so many points on this. You number one, all you got to say is Kalen DeBoer, right? That's why you win 10 games and make a playoff. Look at Kalen DeBoer. Look at his production everywhere he goes. Now he has the most talent he's ever had in the roster. He has something. I'm trying to think. I don't know if he's ever had, right, a running game in a running an attack like he has now. No. Which would be very, I really had to think about that, Ty, because that would be probably the biggest key out of everything, right? Is this offense is almost more dangerous because it has, for years, Grubb was always trying to establish the run. And I don't know, Dylan Johnson had a great year at Washington, but it was hard to do because this running back's not a one running back system. It's meant to have diversity in the running back room. And you look at what they do with the running back isn't a key part. They've just had really good concepts as far as getting the receivers one-on-ones and having a really good receivers coach to win one-on-ones, to teach them that. So that's where they've been a lot of success from the offensive side. Now that I think he has this like monster and a quarterback who is extremely athletic, I think is your next Heisman winner. You have a three-headed beast in your running back room where you could rotate any of the three upperclassmen in and get just an explosive, dynamic runner who could break it at any point. And then you look at an offensive line who technically, I guess you could say, is returning 4 starters. Because I want to say Parker Brailsford, because he started at Washington. He's gonna slot right in, right? So I want to say 4 starters. And you know what? I will say this, Ty. Me and Ty talked about this yesterday. We were talking about who's like that right tackle position, right? Who's that right tackle position? And you're right. I'm giving it to Formby. That's what you said, Ty, right?
Yeah, I just think he fits better in this pin and pull offensive line scheme.
I do too. And I went back and I watched some of him, what clips I could find. Right, I do think it's Formby. Now that you say that, don't get me wrong. There's going to be a lot of competition.
Oh yeah,
but I think Formby fits it really well, and I think he's probably the one to beat in my mind. Like now, I go back and I look, but you look at that, and you look at one guy who has to slot in, and he's going to do well because of what he has around him. He'll play up to that expectation. So for me, if I were to break this down, I feel good about going 12-0 just because of what we're returning. My biggest question mark is how quickly can the defense just make sure their communication gets on cue. I think it's going to be fine because of the easy way to pick up. But that would be the only reason why I see we drop a game is we have maybe a one struggle game. But yeah, playoffs, and I definitely I would say over 10 games in my mind, but definitely playoffs.
Yeah, George. I think Vegas has us at 9.5 right now, so you could easily interpret that as a 10-game winning season. So I think that could be. I think that could be in the cards. I think playoffs is in the cards. I look at a few games though, and I'm like, that could be tricky. What is this Tennessee offense going to be? We know that veer and shoot can be tricky.
Yep.
If Nico is the quarterback that so
Mhm.
many people thought he was going to be, he's
Yeah.
going to be tough to stop. And this is what it boils down to me. And this is going to answer a lot of questions. How good is our defensive front? Because when I look at this schedule, if you can get after Beck, I
Mhm.
think we can be successful, but we need to be able to get pressure on him. If we can get after Nico, we're going to be able to get successful. Got to get pressure on him. And Oklahoma on the back end, they got a really good wide receiver room, man. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know
they
if
do.
I'd put it number 1, but I would put it top 5.
No, I
Like,
like it. Yeah, I mean, they do have Oklahoma's going to be good.
And I really
Man.
like their wide receiver coach, Emmett Jones. I think he's probably
Mhm.
sneakily one of the best wide receiver coaches in the nation. They got Todd
Yeah.
Bates on that defensive line. They
Yep.
got Dominic Williams out the transfer portal, who Texas, LSU, Missouri all were going for. Zach Alley, now the defensive coordinator. They got rid of Ted Roof, which was probably the biggest question mark hire Brent Venables made whenever he got there was Ted Roof. But I understand it because he was transitioning from being a defensive coordinator to being a CEO. And so
Mhm.
he had to get somebody that he was like, hey, I trust you to run my defense while I focus on the bigger picture. I get that.
Yeah.
But Zach Alley is going to be interesting. Real young guy. I
Okay.
think he might be one of the youngest coordinators in the
Really?
nation. Yeah,
Zach Alley, right?
he's very young. He was just at, I
Let me
think,
take a peek.
Louisiana. It was either Louisiana Monroe or Louisiana Lafayette.
Was he with Napier at Monroe?
I don't know. I don't know
Huh.
about that because I always get Louisiana Monroe and Louisiana Lafayette confused. Like,
Did you
I
say
consistently
Zach Alley?
Zach Alley, yeah. And I looked it up earlier. Texas, their
Yeah.
pass defense ranked number 116 in the nation last year, right? And they lose Terrence Brooks, who is a
Yeah.
starter. They lose, gosh, I forget the other kid's name, and it's bad because it was my roommate's cousin. My roommate's cousin was a defensive back for Texas, and he just hit the transfer portal as well. So that's something I'm really questioning whether their secondary is going to be good enough because they lost those 2 monsters on the interior, and they've done some good work in the transfer portal, getting some guys, but we'll see. So the defensive front to me is going to be the catalyst. It's like, okay, how many games are we going to be able to win? How successful are we going to be able to be?
Yeah.
Love the offense, not worried about that. And if our defense, and here's the big reason, Jake, and then I'll pass it back to you. If the defensive front is very good, it will help out a young secondary.
Oh God.
That's why that to me is the big question. 5 Adam is saying, did KD run a 4-2-5 defense last year at Washington? I believe they did, but this is going to be a little bit different. One, he didn't have the defensive front Alabama has, even though I'm, and don't get me wrong, I'm not questioning our defensive front that it will be good. My question is how good, because I think there's a principled chance this is the best defensive front we will have seen at Bama in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. The question 425, they did run it at Washington, a version of it, right? Was it successful? This defense is only that successful based, again, on what Ty is saying. And Brandon Wilkins, again, appreciate your super chat on this. Defense is my biggest concern. Can we pressure fast enough to help our back end? I love that, Brandon. That's exactly what we're addressing right now. Yeah. And Ty, you bring it up. And as you guys can see, I'm going to get golden because the sun is peeking out here in Seattle.
I just thought you were the chosen one.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Oh.
Nah, it's funny, dude. But yeah, I got to figure out this. The sun always decides to just pop its head out whenever like we get in the morning of this, and then it goes away the rest of the day. You know, like figure your stuff out, son. But I'll tell you, I think spot on. I think the defensive line you have to have a really good defensive line to run this scheme because it's a vision. 3-4 nickel. Thanks, Corey. I've talked about this already. That's what this is. It's a 3-4 nickel. Okay. Saban had already been running this, except he's using the Saban, we'll call it the Saban rules. right? With the match coverage, okay, which we'll still see some of those rules. There's a lot of integration of the match coverage to vision and break, but it's so funny because you look, man, I wish I could find that article. Who is it? It's Jeff Hadley, right? Who's over at Ohio State running vision and break, because Ohio State had like a broke defensive secondary. So Hadley comes over as a secondary coach at one point, right? He's running special teams in secondary, and they changed their coverage style, right, to like the vision and break. And one of the things Hadley says, he goes, "Why the hell are we making this rocket science?" Because this doesn't need to be rocket science, because everyone's starting to figure out these old school styles, right? Like Saban and Belichick come up with like this match coverage, which is like a mixture of rules that allow you to play, whether you're going to play cover 3 or you're going to play cover 1, back in the day with the Cleveland Browns, because they didn't have the personnel to play one or the other. It's personnel on their defense. They had like a mixture, right? So they're like, okay, how do we do this? We end up playing this style, right, of coverage that allows you, based on this, and this, we get to protect ourselves against the verticals, because what was happening was they're just getting smoked in the vertical game. Like they basically just say, all right, everyone run all goes, we're gonna burn you. So, and they're like, okay, but then when we figure that out and we put everyone back, then they smoke us underneath, and they just continuously pick up enough yardage to hold the ball and get first downs. So they come up with these rules in match coverage that allow you to protect yourself in both, and utilize what you can to fix that problem. Well, everyone started running it because obviously they've seen how successful it's been, right? And it's good, but and there's a lot of concepts about it that work really well, but there's a lot of discipline that is involved as far as in knowledge, and you have to process stuff really fast. So then you look at Jeff Hadley, who runs this vision and break, who's now going to be the D coordinator at Green Bay Packers, right? And he's not just the only guy who's come up with this, but I mean, it's like taking these rules, simplifying them, and utilizing a way to make sure guys are maximizing their talent on the field. But the way that works, and I mean, honestly, is it comes down to is a really good D line, penetration and pressure on the quarterback. And that's where I feel good, because I think Womack has this. Everyone talks about Womack's ability when he is a coordinator. We got to remember that when he's the one calling plays, he does a really good job of mixing up blitzes. So
yeah, and when I'm looking at the defensive front for Alabama, right?
Yeah,
I forget the technical term for both the outside linebackers,
Bandit
Wolf and Bandit. Yeah, but I forget which one's which. That's the
Bandit's your strong side.
Gotcha. So when you look at this, I mean, I think you're going to have your Jamarian Latham. I think your first group across the front is going to be Jamarian Latham, Jaheim Otis, Tim Keenan, and either Cote, Quay Russaw, Q Rob, or Jan Zapier. Right? Like that's your first group. And that Wolf, that's a tough one for me. Right? Like that's a lot of different possibilities over there.
Whoa. What? 5 Adam? It's not LT Overton at Wolf. Well, he's playing Bandit, dude.
Yeah, I think that's the other one, LT Overton, and then the other one would be LT Overton, and but that Bandit is Jaw Latham, LT Overton, Jordan Renaud.
Yeah,
I think that's your three right there. I think on your interior, you're looking at any combination of Jaheim Otis, Tim Keenan, the law firm of Smith and Smith, and then I'm very excited about Hunter Osborne and Edric Hill.
Yeah,
Edric Hill is a name that I think could really, really boom this year. Pass rush, though, that's where I'm really curious, man, because Alabama's coming from a situation where they just lost Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell the year before, Will Anderson. I mean, they've lost unbelievable edge guys, right?
Yeah.
What are we going to be looking at over at the other side? How are you going to replace that? And luckily, you do have talent. You've got a lot of talent. Like I said, Quay, you got Cote, you've got Jan Zapier, you've got Quindarius Robinson.
Yeah,
So
Q-Rob's definitely playing. He's
not
going
to
to be
even
good at that Wolf.
mention Jay Ross and Noah Carter as they come in during the summer and are getting acclimated, right? So you've got
Dude, yes.
a lot of different names to know right there. But that's it, it all depends, right? Because I think right now, as we look in college football, it's
Mhm.
a natural question to be like, oh, well, is our edges going to be able to get home to the quarterback? And that's fair. That's fair. To me, the better question, as we've seen, can your interior generate a pass rush, right? Like,
Yes.
can Jaheim Otis or Tim Keenan affect the quarterback? Because
Yeah.
if the interior can disrupt the quarterback, we've seen over the past few years, it will dismantle a play. Like, it will completely dismantle a play. I like Alabama's defensive interior. I like it a lot. Jaheim Otis is now healthy. Tim Keenan
Mhm.
really came on strong last season.
That's right.
I'm excited about this defensive front. I'm very excited about this defensive front. It's just my question. I know they're going to be good. My question is how good? Because I think they have the ability to be the best defensive front we've seen at Alabama from an interior perspective in 3 to 4 years.
100. I like it, man. Like that's a great breakdown overall of what you see defensive line wise, Ty. And I agree with you. I think we'll see. I think from like a base package, right? Like you see Otis. Yeah, that's a tough one to say. Who do you have? Who do you have? Do you have Latham as the other one as like
So
the
on
three
on
technique?
the Bandit, I
Yeah.
have Jamarian Latham. It's either him or LT Overton.
See,
I
I
think that's
okay.
the battle right there. And then on the interior, my front two on the interior is going to be Jaheim Otis, Tim Keenan. Um, I, when Otis is healthy, he is a wrecking ball, and
Yeah.
Tim Keenan really, really came on strong. And yeah, Five Adam, you're right. Damon Payne, from what I've heard, has been looking very
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah, I heard that too,
Excited
man.
about him.
And so yeah, I like that. I think well, a lot of people said at that Bandit too, though, depending on what type of package they run, whether because you're going to see different styles of personnel because that's going to really help. That's going to be where it gets fun. I think to me, in my mind, like you look at this, that's where it gets fun. And I know there's a quick comment in here real fast. Kevin Lynch said Jermaine pointed out a good point, and I'll throw this up there. Our front seven is loaded. We lean on the run game to slow the game down, let Milroe pick and choose when to go deep. Well, I
100%.
mean, that's what will happen. You know what I'm saying, Jermaine? And also saw a comment in here by Debbie earlier who really liked us. Yeah, appreciate you, Debbie. 100%. We appreciate you very much. And Lynn, I saw you earlier, and yes, I did. So trying to answer some of these as we jump in and out. But yeah, you look, Ty, if you really look at this, you look at our defensive line, you look at from an edge standpoint, what we have. You look at the true edge with the hand in the ground, right? Your defensive, or sorry, true defensive end. And then you have this edge hybrid player who has to be versatile because he can, based on you're utilizing him because you don't know what he can do, right? He's very similar to our Husky. They are utilized in different aspects of the game. You have to be able to do this job over here, but you also have to be able to do this job over here, meaning like you got to drop back and you got to be able to get off and beat the big boys around the corner, right? You got to have the strength to lock it down and make sure you don't get beat on the outside, right? But you also have to have the discipline to make sure that you don't go too deep and you give up a wide gap for a run game, right? When you're bringing it down. So I like who we have over there. There's so many different options. You look at this and I think that's why I don't question the defense as much, Ty, is because we do look at the depth on the D line. And I wish I could pull the numbers up, man. This is where you wish you like had someone in the background that could be like boop, 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 and grab you, like the percentages and numbers really fast. You know what I'm saying? When we're doing these things, just so I could put it out there because I know it's good. I just can't remember the exact number. But you look at this aspect of what Womack does from his stunts and twists, right? And the different blitz packages he's able to put together out of different sets of personnel. And he does a really good job of confusion. Okay, so we talk about how a defense has to complement an offense and an offense has to complement a defense on the same team, right? I think this offense and defense complement each other so good.
So were you wanting the blitz and pressure rates? Was that what
Yeah,
you were
what
wanting?
was Womack as a DC? What was
I don't have as a DC, but this is from an article on January 17th,
okay?
2024. So this is from last year. South Alabama ranked 14th nationally in pressure rate at 38% in 2023, despite ranking 124th in blitz rate.
Okay,
So,
so
so they weren't blitzing almost ever.
that's that is impressive. Oh, and well, we should clarify though is so that
Applewhite was the DC.
yeah, that's not Womack calling, because a lot of people make the argument. They're like, well, look at what he did when he's a head coach at South Alabama. Well, he's not calling the defense then. He's involved in like the scheme. He's involved in the plan. If there's something he sees and has to step in, it's like, again, it's like a boss, right? It's like you're the head dog, and you have the other guys running different parts of the business. But if you need that, maybe at times you need to step in and say, hey, I don't think you got to trust your guys, because if you don't trust them in the whole game, you're calling it. What does that do for their confidence? Nothing.
You want to know a great example of this?
Yeah, please.
Whenever, and this is just because I can like equate this. I don't know. I don't mean to bring up this team like consistently, but it's just for this scenario, there's an example that really rings true. Brent Venables is a great defensive coordinator. We know this, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think that there's any argument here. I had buddies go camp for Brent Venables. Denzel has told me like, hey, I'd go play for Brent Venables. Like the guy is really solid. And this was after Saban retired. He's like, that's I think one of the better defensive minds in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But when he first got to Oklahoma, like I said, he hired Ted Roof as the defensive coordinator, just so he could be the CEO while Ted Roof was the defensive coordinator. When they played West Virginia that first year, West Virginia didn't have anything in terms of like consistency at quarterback. And if I'm not mistaken, they even had sustained an injury. Their backup quarterback was in, and they were unable to push the ball north and south. Completely unable to push the ball north and south. The only thing they were doing is generating any success going east and west to get north and south.
Mm-hmm.
It was 4th and 4. West Virginia goes for it. 4th and 4. Oklahoma's defense came out, and once again, I'm a Bama fan. I threw something at the wall. I was so mad. I threw a pillow at the wall. OU's DBs line up 12 yards off the wide receivers on a 4th and 4. And they just give them the first down. Now, I raged, and some of the OU guys were like, oh, that was planned. And I was like, well, then it's a dumb plan. I was like, that's a terrible plan. But that, like, even Venables had this look of like, why?
Yeah.
That wasn't bad Venables. That was, hey, there is a defensive coordinator calling a defense that isn't his. Right.
No,
and it's just like, that's fundamentally a flawed play call. Now you look, whenever last year, once Venables kind of got more acclimated to being a head coach and he started dipping back into the defense a bit more, you didn't see that. That's the perfect analogy that I think of when I think of Womack and Applewhite. Like, you can give someone your defense, but that doesn't mean it's going to be called to perfection.
No, I mean that's true. And you can't, well, and again, you have to, it's like raising a kid. You can't sit there and just micromanage every little aspect. You know what I'm saying? You have to let them make mistakes. I always give it up to, because I mean, as you guys know, right? Like, I bring it up, like I was a cop, I was in law enforcement, police officer, I did different things. But also as a kid, my family, we bred dogs, German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Golden Retrievers. Man, so I did like a lot of training with dogs. But even when you're training dogs, right, you can't expect them to be perfect on every single thing. You do see, like, especially after you do it for a while, there's like this progression, right? And you know when they're about to make a mistake or maybe cause them to learn something, right? That's not necessarily positive reinforcement, but and from what they're about to learn. But you have to let them go through that to to learn the mistake that they made in order to correct it later on, and they understand on their end. So, kids, dogs. I'm not trying to like say anything there, okay? But humans.
I'll say it. You whispered in my ear. I'll be the bearer of bad news.
Yeah, there you go. I get you. But humans, Ty, I like it. Ty's like, I'll tell you how it is, everybody. But humans, like, I always compare learning to dogs, and just because it's very easy to see, like, get down to basic concepts of learning. Like, and I trained, right? And I honestly, before they pulled the funding for it, I was going to be a canine officer. I had passed everything, gone through my testing, and I was going to go canine. And then the funding got pulled for buying a dog. So, which was a bummer, because I would have loved, I mean, that was a big passion of mine. But there's a lot of interesting things when you really dig into the learning of it, right? With canine and trying to break things down. Well, same thing goes with like these players, and the same thing goes with people. There's more complexity to it. Don't get me wrong, but there's still like basic rules, right? And so it's hard, because how can you manage every single aspect and not make sure these guys, you have to trust your guys, or else you kill camaraderie, right? You kill like a dynamic. So yeah, he gives it up. And then I do see, Lynn, I saw your comments in here earlier regarding, you were watching the game film from South Alabama. I know I was going to talk to you about this too when we connect. Because Lynn has some really good knowledge around what he's done with his career and playing sports, especially football. And so he has a lot of knowledge on his background. And you say, South Alabama, the one that you watched, gave up almost 400 yards in that game, people running wide open. I see. So I agree with you on that. I think that's one of the things that I've always been worried about when running like this defense, because I look at it from a Washington standpoint, right? And I was like, man, Washington, you look at what they gave up on a run game wise. So what is different about Womack in his scheme? Again, I think South Alabama's a hard one, because you look, Ty, and you probably could speak to this pretty good. You look at South Alabama, and they're athletic for sure. I don't want to dig on anything over there. Do they have depth? Because you need depth to run this, because there's a lot of rotation. Do they have like the guys that anchor in place to stop the run and get the pressure they need to get? We did hear the numbers that you just put out, and the pressure was there without having to blitz, meaning if he's not running like the different stunt packages, there's a reason for it, and it's probably because they didn't have strength in other positions. So they have to keep people in their core, I guess, responsibilities, so they don't give up more. Do you see what I'm saying with that? Does that make sense, Ty?
Yeah. I'm trying to find some.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry, I'll keep going while Ty's digging into this. But what I mean by that is, like, if it's good to hear that they're getting pressure, and then I think the fact without the blitzing, right? Because there was a lot of pressure. The percentage of pressure was really high. But hey, what's up, Louis? How you doing, man? Louis Clips, man, what's up? I love a good haircut, brother. Unless you're talking about clips, like video clips. But for me, man, I equate that to, okay, so you didn't have the personnel to run the blitzes that you needed to. So that's why you didn't have the blitz packages. And on top of that, Womack's not the one making decisions. I think he really brings pressure in unique ways, and because of how he disguises his defensive play call based on the personnel on the field. Because I think that's another benefit to this defense. And then along with that, because if you hear about the 4-2-5 and why people run it, because it's really easy to disguise and throw off pre-snap reads from quarterbacks, which is super helpful, right?
I got some interesting stats here for you
from
Womack, because I was trying to find his stuff at Indiana, and I can't find blitz percentages. And AWatt, I have starred your comment asking about the offensive line. Okay. When we transition, we'll certainly have a conversation about that. That's a really intriguing talking point in the conversation I'd certainly love to dive into. But I want to reference an article right now, and I apologize. I'm going to butcher some names right now. So
I'll help you.
my bad. Article at xandolabs.com by Mike Qcar and Casey Teagarden.
Okay.
I apologize if I just butchered your name. You can call me T Haas. That'll equalize everything. But I begin. The 2020 season produced a ton of firsts for the Indiana football program. A final number 12 ranking in the AP Top 25 was the first since 1988. It was also the first time in quite a while that the Hoosier defense led the country in takeaways, producing over 2 steals per game. It was also number 1 nationally in red zone defense, producing a 64% win percentage in the area of the field. Most of the success was directly attributed to the Hoosiers' trap pressure packages, which they ran on over 40% of snaps. It was built as a complement to change up the looks in a single high windows that Indiana was using in 2019 in over 87% of snaps. They said we were getting killed in the RPO and vertical game, and these sims gave us a way to hang in there against the run to play better against RPOs. That's why we did it. So they're talking about this Womack defense, specifically when Womack is calling it, and how they're able to get successful results, right? Being number 1 in the nation in red zone defense. We talked the other day, and Jermaine just had a comment about this, and it's kind of what I was mentioning the other day. I think it was Monday or Tuesday, Jake, where I was like, whenever you're hiring a staff, you want to make sure that your offensive philosophy is complementary to your defensive philosophy, right? And I think that was part of the problems at Oklahoma, is you had Lebby, who was a very quick-paced offense, but he could 3 and out within 30 seconds. Like, that was nothing for his style of offensive coordinator. It was like feast or famine.
Yeah.
And it wasn't complementary to Brent Venables' defensive style, and especially whenever they're trying to acquire depth. Because by the end of the game, it was like your defense is on the field for 99 plays and they are exhausted. Like they got nothing left.
Yeah, man.
So that complementary defense, I think, is great. It's a bend but don't break defense.
Yeah.
It's going to be able to put up a lot of turnovers, but the ability to be successful in a single high, like there's a reason why he's doing that. And I think that right there is going to help with probably mitigating some concerns in the run game, because you're more than likely going to have a defensive back, and a physical one at that, walk down into the box for most of the time, right? And that's why I think it's so imperative that we did have experienced cornerbacks. I think this kind of gets us back, Jake, to the conversation of, should we just roll out with the young guys? Our young corners, guys, I think we have as much talent in that room as any team in the nation. And I'll repeat that. Alabama has as much talent as any team in the nation from a cornerback perspective, with Zabian Brown, Zay Mincy, Jalen Mbakwe, Jaleel Hurley, Damani Jackson, Deshaun Jones. But whenever you're in a single high, the majority of the time, you're asking a lot of those outside guys, because they don't have too high safety help to where, hey, if I mess up and I get beat, Sab is going to be flying over to this side, or whoever is the other guy, Malachi, or however they end up doing this, is going to be flying over to the other side, right?
However they end up doing this. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who plays and what. I mean, Malachi's going to definitely.
Malachi's going to be
starter,
back there, right? I just didn't know, like, whether what role they're going to have for him, right? Like, we have an idea now, but fall always has an interesting way of taking what we thought we knew in spring and spitting on it, right? Just absolutely chewing it up and spitting on it. And it's going to be interesting. But that's why I think it was so pertinent that they got some experience at the outside cornerback position, because they're going to be in a single high most of the time. And you're asking a lot of those outside guys. So they're like, hey, yeah, we love your talent. You're going to be put on islands.
Yeah.
Like, and you have got to be able to be comfortable doing that. So I'm really intrigued about this defense. I'm not worried, but I'm intrigued. I have curiosities when it comes to the way things work out, and this defense is certainly one of them.
Well, and yesterday we discussed, and if you guys didn't see the video that was dropped, check out that video, run a thumbs up for us regarding cornerbacks and like size of cornerbacks. We were talking about Dejon Lee, his size, because he's a big cornerback, right? But then I started to look at it, man, and I was like, I feel like we do have big cornerbacks besides Zay Mincy. I mean, Zay Mincy, you could say, I would say Zay Mincey's between 6'2", 6'3", right? Bigger. Xavier Brown 6'1", Damani Jackson 6'1". I think who we just brought in with Deshaun. I think he's
Is
like
6 foot
5.
6'1"?
Is he? I thought he was 5. Okay.
Let me
I
check.
was
Let
gonna
me
say
double check on that.
I thought he was maybe like 5'10" or whatnot, but I could be wrong. So I mean, that's a good size at
6 foot.
corner. Okay, 6 foot. So you look at like the overall. When I think of like a big corner, yeah, I'm thinking 6'3" to 6'5", right? And the cornerback I was thinking about yesterday, I played for like the Seahawks with that Legion of Boom. That was Brandon Browner. He was huge. Brandon Browner was gigantic, right? And so, I think overall, right, you look at those cornerbacks, you look at what they get to go against in practice, and then we look at the depth on the defensive line. Now, that's where you say from a personnel standpoint, and then with what Womack does, and then I think it continues when you're a D coordinator or defensive minded coach, you're always looking to get better, right? Always looking to get better. And I think that's the key where he goes, right, and he has this meeting in Mesh, and it's a really great interview he does with Next Round, I think it's called, right? That the show those guys do, Next Round, and he gets on there, and that's where he talks about like the mesh of. He goes, I wouldn't even call it a 4-2-5. He goes, what we run as a 3-4 nickel, and we go it we're 3 down. Go from like this 3-4 packages, you go like 4 down linemen. Like, I mean, you have a lot of options, and you're constantly going to see different looks. The beauty of it is very similar to what you were just saying, Ty, and what we've been kind of discussing back and forth is kind of this complementary styles of like, you look at what the confusion does for teams and defenses with everything KD does on offense, right? I had a blank there for a minute. I had a frozen pause. With KD does on offense, right, which causes a lot of confusion. It prevents them from getting the correct kind of look. That's why we see these motions and all this stuff. I think you see the very similar style with the way Womack goes about things, and I think that's why Indiana even has the success that it had when those two are at Indiana facing each other all the time, along with Nick Sheridan. You know what I'm saying? Like that, and everyone's like, well, it's Indiana. Like, why would you care about like a big coaching staff from Indiana? Do you guys realize the success Indiana had when they were there? Like from what they were at to what they went to?
Yeah, I just gave you the numbers. First time since the highest finish since '88.
Insane. So now you just look at the depth we have. And the defense, this defense, just like every defense, is successful based on pressure. It's successful based on putting pressure and making guys make decisions fast. Then we get turnovers, right? So I like it. I like what we're going to see with Womack. I'm not saying we're not going to like have mistakes or not going to have teams put up numbers. It's going to happen. It's just the way football works, I wish we had a defense like the Baltimore Ravens. What was that Ravens defense took them to Super Bowl? Like,
and I really like this comment as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake, I've told you this so many times. I don't know that I'm as excited about any hire on the defense as I am about Colin Hitchler.
Oh yeah, that's a good
His
one.
Cincinnati secondaries were insane.
Mm-hmm.
When we go back to that playoff game, Alabama versus Cincinnati, I love the way Alabama played that game, first off, because everybody thought, oh, Alabama's just going to, put up 1,000 points on them. And then at the end of the game, everybody was like, oh, so Cincinnati was much better than expected. And as always, the truth is in the middle. They ran a kind of hybrid 3-3-5 nickel, right?
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, it was just Saban looked at it and he was like, okay, if you're only going to put 3 down linemen every time, I'm just going to run it down your throat for like the majority of this game. Why would I throw into the teeth of a 3-3-5 nickel whenever I can just run it down your throat and make you transition out of it? Well, they didn't. They didn't transition out of it. We just ran it down their throat all game long. I think, I don't know what Robinson averaged in that game, but I'm going to check it out while I'm talking. This is an elite multitasking, ladies and gentlemen. But it was 6-26 in that game. Brian Robinson averaged box score. He averaged 7.8 yards per.
Wow.
Right? Like they were just like, I'm not going to throw into the teeth of a 3-3-5 when you have an elite secondary. In Cincinnati, Colby
Sauce
Young,
Gardner, right?
Sauce Gardner. And whenever you look, it's crazy, Jake, because Colin Hitchler was the safeties coach. They credit him a lot for the success of that entire secondary. He goes over to Wisconsin. And Lynn, I 100% agree with you. I was on here and I kept saying, I pray to the Most High that there was a certain defensive back that entered the transfer portal. And he didn't. And I was a little bit hurt about that. But it wasn't, everybody always thought that, oh, Ty, you're talking about Will Johnson. Well, don't get me wrong. I think everybody would have loved Will Johnson to enter the transfer portal so they could have a swing at him. But it's a cornerback that I liked just as much as Will Johnson, and that's Ricardo Hallman, who played for Wisconsin, had 7 interceptions last year.
Yeah.
That guy's elite.
Elite.
Like, the only thing, Jake, whenever we play Wisconsin, I just want to tell our offense, hey, test everybody but him. Just don't test him because he's proven time and time again. Bro, he put the clamps on Marvin Harrison Jr. for a lot of that game. Like, the guy is really freaking good. I was praying he would enter the transfer portal, follow Hitchler to Alabama, because if we would have had Hallman and Amani Jackson, I would be so bullish right now. I would be a problem. I would be an absolute problem. And I'm still excited, but like I would genuinely be like, oh, we might have the best cornerback tandem in the nation. Like that guy is great. So I 100% agree with this. I'm very excited about Colin Hitchler. That guy, everywhere he's gone, the way they talk about him, and he was responsible for 7 or 8 of Wisconsin's commits. He was a top 10 or 15 recruiter in the nation at Wisconsin.
Oh, it was impressive, man. Like a lot of people bring him up regarding that, Ty. Like that he has that way about him that makes him very, very easy to get along with, easy to learn from, easy to like. He's a relationships guy. I think that's what is really impressive about KD and Courtney Morgan is they say it a lot. It's about relationships. It's about, being positive. It's about finding people that complement each other. No, take away ego. Ego is a killer. I've seen comments in here and guys have thrown that out, right? It's like pride and ego and all these things. Take that all out. Like you have pride, don't get me wrong, to do a good job. But the ego part where it turns into like the ego, take all that away. Just go out there and be who you are. And I think a lot of people bring that up with Hitchler and Coach Mo, but truthfully the whole staff in general. But Hitchler gets a lot of credit there.
Yeah, so. Hitchler is going to be very good. And then you have Mo Linguist, who I'm very excited about, who coached cornerback for the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys, then was involved in the Texas A&M recruiting class that was really, really solid. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I did want to hit this comment right here.
Okay.
I don't know if AWAT is still in here. AWAT, if you are, I apologize it took us this long. But he says, will having a slimmer, more athletic offensive line affect our running game for the good or the bad? Won't have those big earth movers like we had in the past. Do you mind if I go first on this one?
Oh, Ty, you don't ever have to ask me that. Man, that I love you, dude.
My answer is overwhelmingly, no, it's going to be good. And I'm going to tell you very simply why. Last season, I talked about this a lot. I was very curious, like, is going to be having the biggest offensive line even bigger than an NFL? Like, that was either going to be
make me pull it up.
Well, that was either going to be a way to completely override how people thought of offensive line play. Like Alabama was either about to set a new standard or it was about to not work. It didn't work the way we had anticipated. Okay, cool. We now know that. All good. But whenever Jaden Roberts was not running with the first team. I remember, Jake, I think it was maybe, I forget which game it was, but it was one of the first 3 games. No, I think it was the first game or the second. I don't know. It was one of those early games. But the second team offensive line came in. Oh, did he say that? Okay, Kevin. Thank you very much for that, Kevin. I didn't see that. Perfect. Well,
Okay.
when you
We'll get into your
rewatch this,
stuff. Yeah.
when you rewatch this, AWAD, I'm very sorry that it took us this long. But sometimes when you're in here and you're in like the flow of a conversation, you don't want to just like abruptly disrupt it to head to the other side of the aisle. So we had to let that flow play out. But whenever you watch the second team offensive line come in for Alabama, I thought that they had more pop. Not all over the place, right? Like Tyler Booker's Tyler Booker.
Yep.
Not going to have more pop than that guy. You're just
No.
not.
Yeah.
But across the board, I thought that, like, especially Roberts, when Roberts came in, like, it was so much more explosive, so much more movement, and they were running it behind him.
Mhm.
Because it's just like, oh, you're handling your first guy, but now you're getting to the second level of the defense.
Yeah.
I think that the more athletic offensive line, you're going to see that across the board, where there's more pop, more explosion. They're able to pin and pull, able to get to the second level. I think it's good for pass defense. I think it's going to be real good for pass defense, pass blocking, and I think it's going to be real good for run blocking.
I agree, man. Like Ty, you couldn't say it better, but at the same time, like I'm just looking at this right here, and if I'm correct, the stat is the average NFL O lineman weighs 314.
Goodness.
Like whoa, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like again, everyone wanted to point out like Parker Brailsford. He's too small. What are you talking about? Parker Brailsford is not
Well,
too
what's
small.
Jason Kelsey? Like,
Yeah,
isn't he
yes,
kind of
Jason
in
Kelce,
line
same
with
size,
Kelsey?
basically. Yeah, like maybe there's like a 10-pound, 15-pound difference.
And now
in
he's at
Jason-
Bama. No offense, Jake.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't mean, but Washington strength and conditioning is
Mhm.
not Bama's strength and conditioning, right? No offense to Washington, but like Bama is known for just having a hard ass strength and conditioning program.
Dude. Well, I mean, I think it's the best in the nation.
Yeah.
I fully agree with that. And I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, I like Washington, right? That's my school. I have a lot of love. I play there. I'm not saying
I love 'em.
facts are though, but that was like almost 20 years ago, right? So completely different day and age. And I think you do look at Alabama has the best in the nation when it comes to putting out the strongest, fastest athletes. They're who they have in place are the best. You could argue they're some of the best in the world. Even over some of these pro teams, over some of these like world teams. It's impressive what they have, what they've been able to do, and how innovative they are. They constantly are looking to get better, right? Smart move. I love it, man. These guys learning, always staying ahead. But again, we go into this offensive line group, and I think, man, you look at these guys, and I got a lot of shit for this, Ty. Remember when we did the video and I brought up the comment about these guys get in the weight room, lose some weight, they'll feel better, they'll move, they'll be able to bend. People are like, lose some weight? What? They don't need to lose weight. They're good how they are. It's like, dude, time out, man. Like, okay, when the hell have you ever been 6'5", 350 pounds?
At 18 years old, if we're talking about Proctor.
Yeah, dude. I'm not digging on these dudes. I'm not calling them like this. You know what I'm saying? I'm not calling them bad. I'm not being mean. I'm saying for their benefit, it is proven science. When you have more muscle than you do fat, you are going to be athletic. You are going to feel better. You are going to be able to move. You're going to be stronger. And in these guys' situation too, is that when they do get to drop those pounds and they get into an area where they don't need that weight to still do the job that they're doing, maybe be even better because they have better flexibility, they have better footwork, they can maintain. Here's the deal. Here, think about it from a weight training standpoint. It's all about maintaining form for as long as possible under pressure, right? So that you're building these muscles. And what a lot of people do is they get to the heavier weights and their form goes to shit. Their form is
Yes.
gone. They can't lift. Okay, well, then you need to go back down. Well, the key is the same thing goes into like a workout or when you're on offensive line, when you're blocking, you are in a position, right? You're basically squatting down a couple degrees and then you're shuffling. Go do that in basketball. It's very much used in basketball. Okay. And you're shuffling and then you're having basically a boxing match with your hands. So think about how much work that takes. And in order to keep the form as long as possible and maximize your explosiveness, it is important to make sure you are in the prime shape of your life at offensive, especially a tackle when you're going against guys who are coming off the edge who are super fast. And we saw some of the laziness last year in the footwork in tackle, right? So, but that had a lot to do with size. So now you look at these guys who are in like this prime, like the size that they are in prime to still move people. They're strong as hell. They're going to feel better about themselves. Top of that, we're going to see this experience and this confidence that these guys worked better as a team because our brain, our communication from both sides at center is there. We have somebody who can do that, right?
Very true.
I'm really my offensive line, Joe Moore, baby. That's where those need to be going. Joe Moore Award winners. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that the offensive line is
I like
absolutely going to benefit.
How do you think? Do you like that?
No, I do. I do 100%. I think that the offensive line is going to benefit. Which one of us is?
Did you freeze or did I freeze?
Did we freeze?
Hey, chat, did we freeze? Did you guys just did you guys just see us like freeze? Did we just do something weird? I know you. I was like, hello, hello, hello. Might be mine.
One of these
The
times I'm
connection
just gonna
works.
play
No
a
freeze.
joke
Okay.
on you, and I'm just gonna like sit here like that forever, just to mess
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you. So we had some good questions.
Nah, it
I
might
wanted to
just
get
be
to. I'm
mine. Oh, I froze.
gonna star
Damn the internet.
Jermaine's. That's a good one. Like that question,
Mhm.
Jermaine. Kosi, great comment saying, I love how we are recruiting and trading depth at O-line. Gino Vandemark will rotate in with Roberts and Booker to keep everyone fresher. I think at the end of the games, but Jake, this is typically you're not going to rotate your offensive line a lot just because you want that cohesiveness at all time.
Shit, I'm glitching, dude. I'm glitching.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi.
You're better
Do I
now.
look
You
like
were
him? Freaking, it's the I don't get it, man. It's the internet. I'm
that's the beauty of
closer to like the Navy communications towers up here, so it definitely is crappy. But I
that's the
get it.
beauty of
Go.
the
You're
internet.
good. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's just how this goes, right? Like, but
Yep.
I do love how we're recruiting on the offensive line front, no doubt about it. Ruben, you had a great one. Let me hit this right quick. And Lynn has a great comment. I'm starring all of these. Let's start with Jermaine. Do you think Kane, Mo, and Shep finishes top 15 or 10 recruiters in the 2025 class? Those guys are knocking it out the park. So Shep is going to be really interesting
Mm-hmm.
because I think he is, right? Like that guy is infectious. When you just watch the videos of him, like it makes me want to run out there and play wide receiver. Now, thank God for everyone out here that I'm not, right? Because if I get on the field as a wide receiver, you know we have problems, right? That's the
Yeah.
day where sell all of your stock. It's like, okay, we're done. Pack it up. The dynasty is officially dead. Ty's on the field as a wide receiver. Let's go home, guys. We don't even have to watch it. It's going to be bad. But nonetheless, like that guy makes me fired up. I think that Kane, Mo, and I think two of them finish as
Mm-hmm.
top 10 recruiters. And I think there's a strong possibility they all could finish as top 15. I don't know what the numbers for this class are going to look like. I don't know because, right, I don't know what a Kalen DeBoer class will look like until I see it. But listen, I think all of them are infectious recruiters. Shep, I think is definitely destined to be up there because
Mm-hmm.
good wide receiver class. He already has Lotsier Brooks. You're after, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't we make the final official visit for Derek Meadows, top 10 wide receiver in the nation, 5-star? You have Caleb Cunningham. So let's just pretend your 3 wide receivers are Lotsier Brooks. Then you have Caleb Cunningham and either Quincy Porter or Derek Meadows or both. Like I said, I don't know how many wide receivers they'll end up taking this class. I have no idea about that. But let's say you take 4 wide receivers.
Yep.
Because that's what they took last year, right? Let's say you get 4 this year. Yeah, tie for Biletnikoff.
Yeah. Boom.
In my wildest dreams. And that's a dream, Kosi, I would wake up from laughing. I'd be like, okay.
Stud.
Chill out. If I won the Biletnikoff, football's in a bad place, right? Football's in a very bad place. I'll go out there, run a 7.9 40.
Dude, you could be, right. Yeah, you're faster than that. Come on, Ty.
7.5 40.
Come on. Faster than that. Let's go.
Okay, so, 7 flat. 7
flat. Okay, I'll give you that one. There you
go. No, what do you think about that comment? What do you think about Jermaine's comment?
Yeah, I think Shep does finish in the top 10. I think Kane top 15. I don't know about Mo. I think Mo we're gonna see.
You're not glitching anymore. I think that's from later.
Okay, yeah. So I think Mo. I think it's gonna depend. I think we have I think a lot of guys want to see how the defense plays this season. So if their defense is lights out and you see these young quarterbacks like excelling, I think that's going to be the biggest thing, man. The biggest thing that comes down to is this gameplay and people seeing the excitement of these guys, because that's going to impact a lot of the way the recruits go, right? So, but from a wide receiver standpoint, I know we're in the mix with Travis Smith. You know, he's a big
really high on him as well.
Yeah. Derek Meadows, probably one of my most favorite receivers in the class, from a standpoint of how explosive he is. Again, big guy, but he's fast for how big he is. I mean, 6'5".
Great, yeah.
Yeah, but he's really fast, runs really good routes. So I think Meadows is really good. Again, Caleb Cunningham, absolute stud. You're looking at one of your top wide receivers in the entire nation, behind Decorian Moore. Let's see, who else do we have that I can name off? I mean, we already have like Brooks. You have I don't know.
Slotty Pippen.
Oh, yep. Okay. Marcus Harris from Modern Day. He's still in the mix, right? So there's a lot of guys in here. I don't know. I don't know if Nashawn Montgomery was another one, but then what? Quanell
Farrakhan Jr.
Yeah, Farrakhan. That's another big one. Az Williams Jr. was another one. I mean, so there's a lot of guys in here, right? Like that we could go and break down that they're going after. And then there's probably, those are like top name guys. Those are probably your more popular names that get thrown out there. But there's also a lot of people. I mean, look at Lotsier Brook. Like, you know, did we hear his name? Did a lot of people know that was coming out of? And then we look at him, we're like, oh my gosh, this dude is a beast. This guy's amazing. CJ Riley. Yeah. Thanks, Jermaine.
I still think Brooks is I don't think he's done flying up the recruiting board. I don't.
No, I mean, absolutely like studly.
His first camp, he lit it on fire. A few weeks ago, he camped for the first time and lit the place on fire. Like they were like, this guy's freaking unstoppable. So yeah.
And then we look at, I think heavily with, and I keep going back to wide receivers. I think that has a lot to do with getting that feel with the quarterback. So once and we can see they're looking at that push for Keelan Russell, right? That's our dude. That's who we want. I'm not gonna say I don't want like other guys, because there's a lot. It's a deep quarterback class. I saw there's question marks of us saying, what quarterbacks? There's a lot of quarterbacks in this class.
Solid quarterback class.
Yeah, solid quarterback class. But what were you saying, Ty, on you watching film on Russell?
Russell might be my favorite quarterback in the class. The more I watch of him, the more I'm like, holy cow, man. This he can generate a velocity on his throws
Yeah.
that, like, listen, there's a lot of guys with really solid arm talent in this class. But the way he can generate velocity on throws is a little bit different. Plus, I love him for this scheme. It's a really solid quarterback class, man. Like Juju is a monster.
Yeah.
Bryce is a monster.
Monster.
George McIntyre, very, very talented. But Keelan Russell, I like him as much as any of them. Like,
Yeah,
truly,
man.
man. I love his game. I think he should be a 5-star.
Hey, I like that. I mean, I do, man. I think I love it. I mean, I think so too. I think he's like within the top 3 in the nation. I really do. Like he's a stud.
And he
Absolute
plays,
stud.
like, if we're talking about the hardest high school leagues in America, the only one that I will give you as being any harder is the Trinity League out in California, St. John Bosco, right?
Yeah.
Mater Dei. Like, if you want to say that's tougher, you're not going to hear much of an argument from me because, let's be honest, that is a meat grinder of a league.
Dude.
That's what made Bryce. There are certain leagues out there, ladies and gentlemen, that if you win them, if you do good in them, you're instantly going to be elevated to the national stage. Caleb Williams out of that, what's the league called up there in DC? But it's the DMV DC area, and that's a hellacious league as well. He won it as a sophomore, Jake, and was instantly on the national stage because it's like, oh, you did this as a sophomore. Got it. You are that dude. Well, Duncanville?
Yeah.
That's the hardest or the second hardest league in all of high school football in the nation. That is a messed up league, man.
And the guy comes in and just like 2 years in a row wins the state title, 6A state title. It's all good. Like that's a lot to be said right there. Here's the deal. There's something about like when you are a winner and you understand how to win, you just win. It just happens. You just don't know how to lose. I mean, that's why I'm so comfortable with like Kalen DeBoer, right? But it's also interesting to say like that Sheridan, I think, is so high on Russell because Sheridan's your guy who identifies Penix, and he's Penix's recruiter for the process. And we just hear more and more about Penix in the NFL and going through the combine, his abilities, right? And like the way he spun the ball, the way he threw it, his accuracy. I think you look at Russell and I think they really look at Russell and his improvement from his sophomore year, stepping in, because he had to step in his sophomore year, Studley, but then he jumps to his junior year. You're like, whoa, puts up wild numbers. The guy's just like, his football IQ is really good. He can process and make decisions really fast. That's a key, right? When it comes to these positions, whether it's quarterback, whether it's wide receiver, whether it's running back. I mean, honestly, we're truly any position of football, but especially when you're seeing a lot go on, you're not so much like close up and you're relying on feel and touch, but you're relying on your eyes to see everything. And I can speak heavily to this because, like, again, I'm deaf in my left ear, right? So I rely a lot when I'm paying attention to things around my vision. My vision, what I see, what goes on, tells me a lot about the atmosphere, tells me a lot about what's going to happen. And I mean, shoot, I think it helped me in football 100%. But then you're able to process these like things really fast because you're smart, right? And your IQ's there, and you're just mentally really sharp. I think that's the thing with Russell. And then you look at his arm strength, and I think they identify another Penix. That's what I think they're saying. They're going, hey, this guy's special. He fits what we need, right? And you look at the sky's the limit for this guy. You just look at, I think they see the progression in him and his development, and they're like, whoa, like let's get him. So it's awesome because now we have an official visit with him, and we really get it. I think you're going to see them go above and beyond to try and grab this dude, man.
Well, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, an undefeated, correct me if I'm wrong,
Ruben, what's up, man?
a lot of the times, where's Ruben at?
Yes,
oh, there, yeah.
It's all good.
And I'm the one who just put the comment up there.
Hey, it's all good, man.
Oh my God.
Anybody need a coffee? Coffee? Anybody?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Moving
What up,
on.
Ruben?
Well, undefeated. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this is true. Typically, when you get an offer to Bama, it's like an offer to camp, right? Like that they want you to come camp. He got a straight up committable offer day dot. Sheridan watched him, if I'm not mistaken, made a phone call and was like, I'm going to extend this offer. And his is, if I'm not mistaken, a committable offer. And he just tweeted out the other day that he's going to be at Bama May 31st for an extended stay. I don't know how long, but you want to know what I do love?
What?
Did you see the video that Bama's creative director team sent to him?
No, but I'm going to go find it. Was it on Twitter?
Yeah. But it's got the Kendrick Lamar Not Like Us beat in there because his name on Twitter is Keelan Dottam Russell. And K. Dot Kendrick Lamar. And so every time, like I showed my wife, and my wife just looked at me last night and she goes, "Wop, wop, wop." If you know, you know. If you've been keeping up with the beef,
I saw that. I did see that, man.
But if my wife hit me with the wop, 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 and I was like, I married the right one. But
yes, you
get
did.
to Ruben's comment. I have no idea, Ronnie. That would be amazing.
I heard he was.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'm not the guy for basketball. I wish I was. You have boxing, UFC, or football questions? I'm your guy. You got basketball questions? I'll have a conversation with you about it because, like, I love basketball. It's certainly not that. It's just if I'm watching anything, it's football or fighting. I'm gonna be very honest with you. That's my, and I'm really getting back into Jake soccer. Like June 1st is going to be such an amazing day because I think you have the 5-on-5 where you have the two major promoters in England for boxing having their five. They each picked 5 of their guys that they represent who are coming to fight that night. So it's going to be 10 great fights. Cool. Or five great fights. Deontay Wilder is going to be fighting on that. Nice. I believe that's June 1st. You also have the UEFA Champions League final between Dortmund and Real Madrid. And you have the UFC card of Islam Makhachev versus Dustin Poirier. And I believe you have Paulo Costa, Sean Strickland on that card as well. Like, I can't wait for June 1st. I am already so excited for June 1st. Five Adams, you are totally wrong, my guy. Nah, it's all subjective. But soccer, listen, soccer's awesome.
Yeah.
Soccer's awesome. But when I get to this comment right here, Ruben Poole says, whoa, stop, hold up. If Bama had beat Michigan and played Washington for the national championship and Coach Nick Saban had retired afterwards, would Coach Kalen DeBoer still have come to Bama? Sorry if this has already been discussed. This has not been discussed, Ruben, and this is a fantastic hypothetical. I really like this
one. Yeah.
This is a great one. This is a great one. Jake, I'll let you go ahead whenever you get your grip in.
That's right, guys. I got to put one in for this question. All right. Yeah. Like I said, wait till you meet my cousin Jack Bo Merrill from the South, baby. Good dude. So good question. Would KD still come to Bama? I believe that it would be a yes, but I also believe it would have stirred up way, way more drama. Number one, I think it would have been interesting game for sure. Because then, I mean, how much it would have been fun. You know, what would have been cool is to watch and see what KD did offensively against Saban's defense. True. That would have been very exciting to watch and to see if he would have exposed more aspects, right? Because then, there's so many like what if questions from there. But I think that would have been more fun to watch because the hard part of that game for me, when I look back at that Washington and Michigan game, was like Washington lost to Michigan because they beat themselves. They mentally made stupid errors, very stupid errors. Penix was completely off his game. They had multiple chances to come back. And it's not, Michigan didn't do anything special. I think it's just the hype of the game. And if you look back after that first quarter disaster, Washington steps in and finally plays defense, right? And they start to shut Michigan down. You start to see some 3 and outs. You start to see opportunities. And it's like offensively, I'm gonna be honest, I just do not think Penix had a very good game. The dude was completely off. I mean, off.
Especially coming off of the heels of that Texas game where he was sensational.
Yeah, it was dumb. I was like, gosh, dude, you could really get back into this game and make Michigan sweat, because then they wouldn't know what to do. Michigan would have had a hard time if Penix started hitting his throws. They really would have. But take that away, go back to this Bama beat Michigan, right? Would he have come? And that is that's a yes. He definitely he would have come. And I think it's too great of an opportunity. And I think you look at Kalen DeBoer's mindset, right? Kalen DeBoer is not somebody. I think this is what the beauty of him. He's like a really good general, Ty. You know what I mean? Like, he's a general who doesn't get phased. There's no hype game that he's playing. He's not playing some crazy hype game. He's not on like the intense craziness end of the scale, and he's not on like the high energy, hype game end of the scale. It's almost like you have, like, in my mind, I put like the Deion Sanders, and then I put like the Nick Saban, right? Like, these are your two sides, because Nick will like go through multiple headsets, rip your ass with 1 second left if you're not doing your assignment, and I mean, not like Deion won't, but Deion then has a really big hype game, right? So I mean, and that works for them. Everyone has their style, but I think yeah, baby. I think with KD, he has this very like poised way of going into battle, which affects his team dramatically, because they don't let the emotions mess with their game for the most part, right? Especially when they believe. So for him, I think he's probably your guy that they still were targeting. They still were going to look at no matter what, based on his success. I mean, especially let's just throw out, what if Washington would have beat Bama? Then I think, everybody from on the Bama side, they're like, oh my God, the Washington, it would have been even crazier, right? So I think you look at that. I think he takes that position because it's just too hard to pass up, and he's the right guy mentally. You got to say there's a shit ton of confidence in that guy, and that's the guy I want to follow in the battle, who's so poised to follow the greatest coach of all time and to feel good about it. He's not walking around like, listen to all his interviews. He goes, yeah, it's good, man, but I'm just me, and I'm doing me, and I'm going to keep on doing what I've been doing that's successful, and also integrate what other guys have done that's successful. His humility along with his confidence are amazing. So,
yeah,
yes.
I'll answer this very shortly. I think yes. And the reason why I think yes is because Kalen DeBoer he showed us his hand whenever he first got to Alabama. And when I say that is, he straight up said, this is the only job in college football I would have left Washington for.
Yeah.
So I actually think that it would have been one of those situations, Ruben, where let's say Bama had beaten Washington or vice versa, however the cards fall in that game. When they meet in the middle, there would have almost been like a changing of the guard right then and there. Right? Like, where maybe when they have that little discussion, Nick would have told him like, hey, watch your phone. I'll be calling. Right? I'll be calling tomorrow. We'll both go home, absorb the loss, celebrate the win, or vice versa once again.
Yeah.
I'll be in touch. Keep your phone nearby. I think it would have set up the exact same. this was an area where DeBoer is wired a little bit different. He sees taking over for Saban as a net positive, not a net negative.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what's very interesting. So I want to address something right here as well. I just looked into it, and it's the analyst. He's a USC analyst. And remember what I was just talking about the other day with Dejoun Lee. USC at the beginning of 2023, like there were articles in June, almost a year ago, June 2023 and August 2023, where a lot of these recruiting people were thinking Dejoun Lee's going to pull the trigger to USC. Like it looked like USC, Texas, UCLA, Oregon were the four big players at that time for Dejoun Lee. And the reason why I think that's pertinent, Jermaine, is now USC's not in this. But for a USC analyst, a West Coast analyst, to be saying, hey, early, but I give Alabama my prediction in the RPM per on 3. That is intriguing to me. That means something. Because once he's a West Coast analyst for USC. USC was a big player in this recruiting battle well before Bama and KD got operated in this. I like that.
I like it too.
I like that prediction a lot. Like that's one, usually with these predictions, guys, depending on who levies them, I'm like, cool. And that'll be it. This one,
you feel good?
One, considering where it's coming from, Jake, I really do. Like, it'd be different if there was like, if it was like the Rutgers people who inserted a prediction for Dejoun Lee, because then I'd be like, well, you're on the other side of the fucking country, man. Like, cool, thank you. I'm happy you're predicting him to Bama, but like, what are you hearing through the grapevine? This is someone who's in the same state. This is someone whose ear is very close to the ground out there in California.
That's true.
Lee.
That's where it's at. Oh yeah, man. I definitely see this because I'm reading that article right now.
That's good call, Jermaine. Thank you for letting me know that, because
that's two West Coast guys. Ty.
That means something. I'm not saying that guarantees a Bama win because I don't want to fucking jinx it, but
no, man,
that fires me up, man.
So you got the Oregon insider Max Torres and the USC insider Scott Schrader.
That fired, and Oregon we just talked about. A year ago, it was looked at UCLA, Oregon, USC. Those were the players. So now you have an Oregon guy and a USC?
Yeah, it's impressive.
That fires me up, man. Thank you very much for that, Jermaine. And 5, Adam, I just don't know that. Like, don't get me wrong. There's some really solid defensive linemen in this class. Yeah. But I just don't know that this is a great, like, 5-star defensive lineman class. I will look at the class as we address. I'm going to star your comment, 5, Adam. I'm going to go to Lynn's comment right here saying, I wish we could have went and got Bo Davis. I think it was a huge mistake to let him go to LSU. He wanted to go home. From everything I know from the Texas people, they tried to keep him. He wanted to go home. He wasn't going. It was LSU or bust for Bo Davis. Like, he wasn't going anywhere else. But I do agree with you, Lynn. I think Bo Davis is fantastic.
Yeah.
That bus speech, did you ever hear that one, Jake?
No.
So a player on Texas, I don't know who, they hit record on their phone, and they had just lost to somebody. I forget who it was, and they're in the bus, and Bo Davis is losing his mind, like going ballistic, being like, this is not what I do. I'm a winner. I've always been a winner. I've developed winners. I am not about to be here with some losers. Like, he went ballistic in that bus. And it was the exact thing they needed. It was exactly what they needed to hear. Because I had always thought that one of the biggest problems with the Texas culture before Sark got there, and this is one of the things, and I know, Lance, you and I disagree kind of on where we view Sark. Certainly, I wouldn't put him as a number 1 or number 2 coach in the nation. Not my contention. But we kind of, Lance and I kind of differ. But one thing I will say, Lance, is Sark has done a very good job at changing the culture at Texas to now being like, even if it's not Sark, the next guy coming in gets to work with a much more positive culture going
Yeah.
forward than Sark inherited.
Yeah.
Sark had to completely rebuild the foundation of Texas and then get them to where they are now. So
True fact,
where
true
we
fact.
put him on the coaching thing, that's certainly up for conversation, Lance. And you always make a great point about how he has one quality win in 10 years. I also think that's a little loaded, right? I think that's a little loaded, but he rebuilt the culture at Texas. Whenever he got there, it almost felt like to me that Texas always thought that the logo on the helmet was going to win them games.
I mean, maybe back in the day, like, I mean,
Well,
back in the
even
day.
after Mac Jones,
Yeah, I
or Mac
know.
Jones, Mac Brown.
Yeah, Mac Brown.
They,
Yeah.
they still operated under this like, oh well, we're Texas, we're gonna do it, and their recruiting was not good in terms of Texas. I've always said this: if you go to McDonald's, Jake, and you get
Yeah.
yourself a Big Mac with fries, that's a meal, right? That's a meal. But is
Mhm.
that a meal conducive to success? Not
No.
really.
Hmm.
Right? Like that was what Texas was doing. They were recruiting all flash. Sark got there and he said, "Okay, let's get our grains. Let's get our vegetables. Let's get our proteins.
I like it.
Let's have this well-rounded meal that is the recruiting class where now they're focusing on the trenches, both offensively and deep. Like they actually are recruiting
True.
cohesive recruiting classes as opposed to just because when I would say, Jake, that Texas is recruiting well, people would comment correctly, by the
Mhm.
way. It was a correct observation. Texas has always recruited well. You're right. They've always been in the top 12. But
Mhm.
there's a difference between just getting a collection of stars and an actual cohesive recruiting class where you look at it and you're like, no, this is the foundation to which I can build a roster from. I've got my offensive line. I've got my defensive line. I've got
Yeah.
all the sums of the whole. That's something Sark has done really, really, really well at Texas. But Lynn, listen, I agree. If Bo Davis in a crazy world, you could have had Roach because Roach was a linebacker for Bama.
Mm.
Roach could have been linebacker. Bo Davis, defensive line. Ooh wee, that'd have
Whoa.
been crazy. But listen, he wanted to go home.
Yep. Yep. And that's fair. And man, Ty, you make a great point about the recruiting and comparing it to like the food pyramid, right? And making sure you have all of your foundational areas covered as you build up the pyramid. So he did do a good job. And you're right. He had a lot of, you got to give him a lot of credit. He had a lot to overcome. And so I like that. I'm happy for him. You know what I'm saying? I think the next part of that is the thing about what's with Alabama, because we look at the comment prior regarding D-line and like the commitments, and
Let's go back to that.
We talked about like, I hope we get some of these D-line guys. You know, I think we need 5-star D linemen. Interesting enough, that's what I was as you were going through the pyramid, Ty. I think that's what's been great about Saban, right? And what I guess Courtney Morgan does with Kalen DeBoer is that they know there's pieces they already have in place. They know their depth in the different areas. They know where are areas they want to continue to improve as they go down the line from 25, 26, 27 to 28 with the recruiting classes. So you look at like the defensive rundown as far as D linemen, right? From an edge standpoint, you have one senior in Q Rob. Okay. You have a junior, 2 freshmen, or 2 redshirt freshmen, sophomore, and then incoming recruits with 2 more. So you have Q Rob leaves, maybe one other leaves for the NFL potentially. We'll see. If they don't, you have 5 guys. So we need to add another 1, maybe 2. Okay, from edge. The next part then goes to like your actual D lineman, you guys, you put your hands in the dirt, right? And you look at 2 seniors with Tim Smith and Latham, right? This is the area where you have juniors, potentially some could leave again, NFL. You have 4 in juniors, if I'm correct on this. Yeah, with Keenan, Payne, Otis, and Overton. Okay. Sophomore, you got one in Smith. Freshman, again, you have Osborne, Hill, Keeley, Renaud. Incoming freshman, you have Beeman, Bamua, yep, Bamua, and Faga, right?
Mbua?
Yeah, Imbua, is that how it said?
I think so.
Imbumoa, yeah, Steven Imbumoa. I think that's it's a harder one to pronounce, but so what you need potentially 2, maybe 3. So, but you do have you look at that the D lineman. There's a lot still there. There's a heavy depth there, and you want that depth there. 100. You want to be able to rotate. So I think when we really talk about getting D linemen, we have to look at it like the reason we go after linebackers is because we need depth at linebackers. I mean, we only have 6 total, correct? From like the whole overall. So, and then, I mean, it makes sense why we're recruiting linebackers so hard and why we're grabbing and adding to the depth for competition reasons. And as guys continue to leave, right? Or guys will leave after this next season. And then you look at the edge, right? And that's another one. So I think it's interesting because I think they're being very selective. I think they're being very, very selective in who they go after. There was another comment, Ty, that I saw something, and this speaks to what I'm saying, is if you look at what I starred, I think Jermaine pulled it up about some other crystal balls we got.
Yep.
And that's with Dawson Merritt, Ty Jackson, right? And obviously we just talked about Dejon Lee. You look at Dawson Merritt, a perfect dude to come in from a Wolf standpoint, right? And potentially, could we Patriot Life? What's going on, my brother? I see you in there. Potentially, James Smith. You're right, another pressure demon. But you look at from a recruit standpoint, Dawson Merritt. I mean, I like Dawson Merritt a lot. I was really high on him. He comes from a really high caliber background, going to have high football IQ. Again, I've brought this up before. I'm pretty sure his dad is the defensive backs coach for Kansas City Chiefs. Yep. So Dawson Merritt is a stud, and he's making good decisions in his recruiting. He's not playing the hype game. He's not playing. I need to play right now. He's all about understanding development aspect. I have a lot of respect for that. I think Ty Jackson is also looking at his options for this next season. You know what I mean? Like Ty Jackson sees where this opportunity is. You know, like that's huge as far as saying, okay, I can come in and compete even this next season or even develop for a year, but compete to get this playing time because of the rotation. All you got to do is look at Washington, the way they rotate linebacker packages. They have different linebacker packages and what they did. It's going to be the same idea, right? And so, and then, you know, John Lee, another great example, because he's kind of like Dejon's going to be an interesting one because you could plug him. You want to talk about versatility. I know we keep going back to Lee, but he could play a corner, right? He could play your boundary corner. He can play your come down and play like a rover right in the box. He can play your free safety probably really well. So because of his size, and he's going to continue to add size, you're going to go up no matter what. So you got these guys who see this potential, and if they're getting crystal ball, and granted, a crystal ball, it's awesome. I think Kyle covered this a little bit though. It's like you can get crystal ball by or you can get like 1 or 2 picks, and it crystal balls you, from a standpoint. It's a matter of who's doing the picks, right, and who is the one, and what's their accuracy like. From who's doing these selections, from an analyst or a like these recruiting websites. So that's kind of interesting, but it's awesome. And then Ephraim, I guess I didn't see if you asked anything prior to this, but you say, what does that cost? Ephraim just asked. Ty, I don't know if you see that question. I don't know what he means by. He says,
yeah,
what
he
does
says
that cost
price
you?
just goes up, but I'm not 100% certain what that relates to.
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah. price goes. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by what you're asking, Ephraim. So if you clarify, I'll try to get to it. But yeah, so I feel good.
Recruiting is the new shopping. Okay.
Well, yeah, but you have to understand, like,
Somebody's got to spend the money.
Well, you're going to spend the money, but at the same time, what does it cost Bama? It's not going to. Bama's not changing what they're paying. I mean, maybe a little here and there, but if they're changing from a standpoint, they from a standpoint of like, if they change, they're also changing what they're paying the guys on roster, because as you've heard, they do not pay guys more than the guys like for bringing in than the guys that are already here, because they don't believe that that's not a fair system. You need to come in and still work to get that. And on top of that, the payment standpoint, right, is like connection with like NIL. Again, it's going to be a lot better when they could like put these freaking rules in place to allow them to figure that out.
Well, let's
like
end let's end the conversation here today, right? About this, because I don't know if everyone saw, but maybe a week or so ago, people in the undefeated, you will remember, I specifically stated whenever we were talking about House v NCAA, I said this isn't going to court. We're not like it was on the docket for 2025.
Yeah.
And I was saying, hey, there's a bunch of cases that are set to be on the docket in 2025. But the more we started talking about House, Kevin, Jermaine, Ephraim, I think y'all were in here, Patriot Life, I believe you were in here. I was saying this isn't going to court. They will settle. Why? Because the NCAA knows if we go to court, I'm going to have to pay $6 billion, whereas if I settle, I'll have to pay $2 to $3 billion. Now, that's a lot of money. That's a lot less money than $6 billion, right? Like, I am not shocked to hear that now House has settled in the conferences of the Big 12, the ACC, and if I'm not mistaken, yesterday they chose to settle it as a whole, to where it's like, okay, here we go. The NCAA Board of Governors voted to accept the settlement with plaintiffs in the high-stakes House v. NCAA antitrust case, a history-making development that is expected to usher in a new college sports financial model. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting revenue sharing.
Yay! So we're making progress.
And I know a lot of people aren't going to like that. They're going to say, "Oh, this is going to ruin college football." This is the one thing that could bring equity into the... Listen, Pandora's box is already opened. It's not going to close, right?
A good point, man.
Whenever we're like, oh, well, this is going to harm. No, what we currently have, if left unchecked, the longer it goes, this is going to harm. And I don't just mean schools. I mean players. You have Jaden Rashada right now, who is suing Florida based off of damages that now it's interesting. Life Wallet came out, the NIL fund behind Miami, and they're saying we never had a $9.5 million NIL deal in place with Jaden Rashada. And then they go on to talk about what an upstanding family he is. So this is going to be very interesting.
It is, man.
The Rashada, Florida thing. But the more we leave the current situation and the status quo to allow all of this inequity with NIL, where NIL is pay for play, let's be honest, it wasn't meant to be, but it is, because the NCAA can't challenge it. Why isn't the NCAA challenging it? Because they know they're going to get an unfavorable ruling from the court. There's a reason why they went to Congress to try and get Congress to have them exempt from the antitrust laws that the judicial system was trying to levy against them, which, let's be right, the judicial system is correct.
Yep.
Hate to say it. No, I don't. Who am I kidding? No, I don't. I don't hate to say it. I revel in the fact that the NCAA is crashing and burning. Y'all don't understand. I revel in this. These people have the foresight of this Topo Chico bottle. This Topo Chico bottle doesn't have great foresight, Jake.
Well, yeah,
but it has better foresight than the NCAA.
Frustrating. Well, I mean, it just sucks that And I get it. I mean, people got to make money, but like, don't let it be the end all to be all to this. Like, do it in a fair manner. Like,
They
do
could
it in
have
a way. Like, God, just make progress, man.
they could have avoided all of this years ago,
Oh, agreed, 100%.
but they didn't want to. So here we are. And it's interesting. 5 Adam says Saban talked about revenue sharing 12 days ago on Feinbaum. 5 Adam, he also talked about this to Congress.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what Jake, nothing makes me more angry. And it's because of my history in what I've done, right? Isn't the NCAA a nonprofit? I'm not sure. I know the NFL is a nonprofit as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, nonprofit is just buzzwords at this point.
Yeah, I know.
I have a story about nonprofit, but I'm not going to tell it here.
Okay, fair enough.
We'll save that for maybe my, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
One day y'all might get that story out of me. But Saban went to Capitol Hill, and nothing pisses me off more than bad arguments. Where people either, if you don't understand, cool, but then don't talk with such certainty. That fires me up because I've been in many a courtroom, not as a lawyer, but as a moot court member, being judged by federal judges. I'm not going to say which federal judge, but Jake, I did a competition in moot court where one of my judges during the rounds is now a sitting judge on the United States Supreme Court.
Okay, yeah, all right.
He judged my argumentation. He talked to me about the possibility of clerking for him where he was at. Right? Like I've been in these rooms, right? Talking to these people. Like I did very well in moot court. And moot court is actually simulated Supreme Court trials. And you're being judged by federal judges, district judges, or attorneys who have argued in the Supreme Court when you get to the highest levels of moot court. And I mean, you're at universities that have the resources, like Chicago, which looks like Hogwarts, by the way. I don't know if any of you have ever been. I argued against Bill Gates' son.
Oh, that's legit. That's pretty
like
badass.
We'd go to Chicago, we'd all go out, and like when we'd be there chilling at the campus, I'd be chilling with Bill Gates' son. Cool kid, by the way. Super down to earth, really cool kid.
Legit.
Neither here nor there. But I'm going to tell you why this pisses me off so much. Because you had Nick Saban on Capitol Hill begging, like, hey, don't take away NIL. Don't take that away. Give revenue sharing as well. And somehow the lobotomites on Twitter took that and said, oh, Nick Saban's against these players getting paid. That's why he left. I was like, what part of revenue sharing and NIL aren't y'all getting? He's advocating for the players to be paid more. Because if we really look at this, yes, you might not have a quarterback get a $9 million NIL deal now from the university. Well, from a roundabout way from the university. But what you will have is your 2 or 3 star guys being able to get money.
Yeah.
They will have some baseline. Everybody on your roster will now get a piece of the pie. That's good. Plus, you still have NIL to where if Dr. Pepper, Gatorade, Nike want to sponsor DJU, want to sponsor Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, Travis Hunter, by all means. Hey, do it, because that's what NIL is meant to be.
Yeah.
And somehow, Jake, I got so frustrated for those 3 days after because people were talking out their neck on Twitter saying, oh, Saban doesn't want these players getting paid. And I'm like, you couldn't have misunderstood the point even more if you tried.
100%.
Like, this is willful ignorance. This is not misunderstanding. This is willful ignorance. And that makes me so angry.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always an argument against like, oh, there always seems to be when something good goes one way, right? Then you have everyone want to jump in with their opinion and say, well, this is going to do this, or this person thinks this, or now we're going to run into these issues. It's like, dude, time out. You know what I'm saying? Like it's progress again. And what Saban's saying had nothing to do. It's all about development of young men. That's what we get back to the fact that the players should be paid. We need to do it in a manner, though, that keeps the game of football. And we need to do it because if you listen to what Saban really says, he goes, I got into this because I have a passion to see people succeed in life. I want to help them and develop them. He goes, in the end of the day, how are we developing them as a person? Not just with football. And we almost get away from this core thought process, or this core thing of the game, which is developing the human being, developing this young man into a man. You know what I mean? It's like we look at this, and how do we do it right from a standpoint that is fair in what they're doing, and being able to be paid for all the money they bring in, for the hard work they put, because in the end of the day, it's these guys who help make that money, right? The coaches are setting them up in schemes, they're recruiting, but the guys in the field, right? That's why people watch the game. They watch to see them play. It's a gladiator sport, right? A team gladiator sport. It's fair that they get paid, but how do we do it in a way, though, that doesn't take away from education and being of importance? How do we do it in a way that doesn't take away from development, of becoming a better individual, a better human being, of learning skills and traits to help you in life, right? How do we do it in a way that keeps these foundational key aspects of the game that benefit life? Because guess what? When you die, you don't get to take the money. And that is Saban saying we need to impact society in a positive way. And by doing so, we do that in our development. And we have to keep that in the utmost importance through education, through the importance of working hard, not by highlighting and saying money is king, money is king, money is king. We all know what money does, and agreed. But again, does it make things better, or does it make things worse? Well, it could do either or, right? You know what I'm saying? And it can make things better, but you better have the right head on your shoulders to make it better. Right. And that's what Saban is saying. That utmost important factor is how you're impacting this world for the better, for the positive, as a human being, as a person, as a young man. So yeah, it sucks when people are like, well, this is his argument. Wrong.
Yeah. And it made me so mad, because if you would have just even listened, he straight up said, like, oh, well, we need a revenue sharing model, and we can keep NIL, have NIL be what it was actually meant to be, but we can do this revenue sharing. Now, I want to hit some comments, right? Because there's a lot of interesting takes on this. And listen, I'm not saying that the NCAA is going to get this right. I have little faith that they will.
Yeah.
But there's a path forward to where they can do this and correct a lot of what's gone wrong. And I'm going to explain how NCAA, if you're watching, you pay a lot of old senile people a lot of money to be wrong all the time. Pay me a lot of money to be wrong most of the time. Okay.
Dude, Ty's going to let you know that every single time NCAA, till this little clip shows up on your desk in the office.
Pay me inordinate amounts of money to be wrong most of the time, but still be right far more often than you're currently batting.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I come up to the plate with a real bad batting percentage, it's still better than what you're working with. So pay me. I'll come. We'll work something out. I'll dial back my besmirchment of the NCAA. I'll do it. I won't be happy about it, but I'll do it for you.
Oh, you do good. You do good.
So let's hit some comments, because I think that there's a lot of great insight into this. Ronnie Jones said our sport is ripping itself apart. All the traditions are going out the window. Players are now amateur athletes. But hey, what do I know? I've only watched college football for 35 years. Sorry for the rant. No, I think a lot of this is well placed, Ronnie. I think a lot of this is well placed. I will say, and I know you hear this all the time, Ronnie, and I don't mean to say this is a reductionist thing, because you're right. That's why you are right. A lot of this has been happening behind closed doors for a long time. I think college football has been amateur, right? Amateur pro for a lot longer than NIL has been around, if we're being honest, right? Like Jake and I off camera were talking about yesterday, the backyard handshakes that were going down. And the way these people were getting paid long before NIL was ever a thing. But what it did do, Ronnie, is it took what was already happening behind closed doors and blew the roof off of it. Right. And just like made it times 1,000. That's why you are right. You're 100% right here. Now, why do I think that revenue sharing could be good, right? Why do I think that revenue sharing could be good, Ronnie? And this also answers Lance, unregulated Wild West money. It actually has something to do with Lance's comment right here.
Yeah.
Because the word unregulated, that's where we are right now. Because the NCAA cannot do anything because in the eyes of the law, I don't know, for any of my It's Always Sunny fans out there, in the eyes of the law, right, Charlie? I have a shirt that says
Yeah.
Charlie Kelly and Associates Bird Law.
I like it.
Love
It's a
it.
good shirt,
Right?
dude.
I am the leading foremost expert in bird law in this country. Right? We'll
Love
hit
that.
another day. But the reason why I think Ronnie and Lance that this could NCAA hire me, this could be a path forward is because of this comment right here. Unregulated Wild West money. The reason why it's unregulated is the NCAA cannot put any stipulations on this because they do not pass the constitutional muster when it comes to antitrust. Revenue sharing will grant them the ability to pass constitutional muster when it comes to antitrust. Like they'll be able to then pass. The judicial system can't look at them and say, no, you failed the antitrust legality. So therefore, if you end up in court, we're going to railroad you. Having revenue sharing allows the NCAA to then be antitrust legal, right? And whenever they become antitrust legal, that's when they can actually start regulating some of this. The reason right now why they can't regulate anything, the reason why I say Pandora's box is opened and there's nothing to do, ladies and gentlemen, they tried to say, okay, we can only have 1 year transfer again in 2024. They tried to put it where it was like, hey, only one-time transfer. A judge in West Virginia put a 14-day temporary injunction on that saying, no, you can't. No, you can't. You can't do that because you're not legal in terms of your antitrust structure. The NCAA bowed out of the fight. Jake, they didn't even try.
Yeah.
And they didn't even put their rule back in place because they're like, oh, we're going to end up in court. And we already have so many court cases. So if revenue sharing comes down, they will then be legal from an antitrust perspective, and they can then start regulating the transfer portal. They can then start regulating these deals because that's the biggest hurdle right now for the NCAA is not being able to pass any constitutional muster when it comes to their antitrust structure. That to me is why I'm like, hey, NCAA, if you would have done revenue sharing a while ago, I know it wouldn't have been popular, and I understand why, Ronnie. I do agree with you. But the only way we're going to be able to reel this back in any capacity is with revenue sharing and the NCAA making the right moves after. Now, whether we believe that will happen, that's an entirely different story. Hire me.
Yeah.
And we can make those right moves. But that's why I'm like, hey, we're here. This is the only way forward where we can try and keep some of that tradition, where we can get some regulation, but they have got to be able to pass the antitrust laws. They cannot be illegal in that aspect. Revenue sharing will grant them legality in that aspect, and then we can move forward with structure, with regulation, and we can kind of get back to a more normal college football structure if they do it well.
And Ty, like, let me, I'm going to jump on that too, because you do, that's a great point. I think the thing is once they do have, let's just say they have control again. Okay. Let's put it in the basic terms. Right. Cause, I'm very much about the thing. Keep it simple, stupid, because I'm not that smart, guys, but I'll say this. So
Don't
now
you lie to the people.
Oh, come on, Ty. You know the truth there. But hey, the thing is now they have control again. Okay, so if you have control again, though, here's my thing to them, to the NCAA, right? Okay, it's now back in your hands. You can do these things appropriately. Do them the damn right way. Don't screw players over like what they did with Tez. Remind me his last name.
Oh my
From
gosh.
UNC, University of North
I think it was
Carolina.
Walker.
Yeah, Tez Walker. Okay.
I melted down for like 3
Pisses
weeks
me
straight
off,
on my
dude.
live stream.
Like, come on, man. Like, well, you can't do stuff like, so if you put these, let's say, as we know, right, policies are put into place. Policies, they're not always super strict. They're more like guidelines. They give you an idea of how to make the correct decision, and you don't want to massively violate or violate them, I guess, really at all. But at the same time, you can utilize those policies to make better decisions and make educational decisions based on what the circumstances are. So you put in this policy of saying that the welfare and betterment of the mental health of the players and blah 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 blah. Well, Tez has a situation that it takes them way too long to make a decision on. That's once you have power back, it's not, you don't get to go and, as Ty say, sit on your hands, right? You don't get to go and not make like be slow about everything you're doing. You need to make decisions and just make them and go forward. We don't just sit there and we pause and wait and wait. Well, we need to evaluate this. Come on, man. No, you don't. You're not, you don't need to evaluate this. Like, you know what the right decision is. We're all human beings. That's the part I think that gets misconstrued out of all of this shit, is that we're all humans. We all know right from wrong. That you're not born into this world just the demon baby. All right. We all know right from wrong. We all know getting older, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, we all know whether it was right or it's wrong. You get a gut feeling. And if you can't figure that out, then yeah, you probably need to go talk to somebody, right? As far as right and wrong. But I'll say this is like, that's the part where the NCAA now has the opportunity to correct some of these things and some of their decision making and be a little more, a little more confident, I guess, and direct and get things done and do things for like a positive direction. And that's the part is like, then we ask the question, all right, if we can't do that, then we need to get the right people in place who can, right? Because if you don't make decisions, or you take forever, or you make one decision here that's not the same as this one here, it just screws everything up again. So that would be my follow-up to your thing.
Yeah, for sure. I hate.
What?
Someone's asking. I'm just. Why? I'm just looking at this right here. Why did it take so long? It's because of greed, Jimmy. The NCAA can't get out of their own way. It's the reason we're here. They could have solved this years ago. We could have been on our merry way. Right? And instead we're just plodding along because they just wanted to be greedy. Like, quite simply, that's the reason. Right?
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah, I feel you on that, man. Like, oh, and two, like, sense of urgency. Like, have a sense of urgency. Nothing drives me more crazy. Again, like, I've told you guys a little bit about my background. I used to be a training officer for new people and hiring and did a whole bunch of training, right? Spoke at conferences. I used to speak when I was younger playing football. I'd speak to like youth football camps, right? And I'd speak to these youth teams because I would volunteer coach youth teams. And one of the things like training these young kids or even like training new officers was like a sense of urgency to get like, I don't want to see you do. Yeah, there's one thing to be like at peace with yourself. There's one thing to be like calm, cool, and collected, but have a sense of urgency to get stuff done. You know what I'm saying? We're not sitting here just to sit here. Like, have a sense of urgency to get stuff done. And if you can't figure out what that is, then get the hell out. I'm going to put somebody in who's going to figure this out. And I mean, come on, man. Like that should be ingrained in people since you're young. Have a sense of urgency. Get things done. Let's go. That's, I mean, at least that's my take. I'm one of those people, you know.
Yeah, I don't like sitting on your hands, and the NCAA has sat on their hands for years.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
Here we are. No, I feel you. I feel you. I like it. I mean, I think we're good. I
think that's a good place to.
Do you think so? You feel good about that?
Call it today, and then we'll be back this evening. Well, you will be back this evening.
I'll be back, I think, this evening
with Coach Jay, Coach Sean. I believe tomorrow morning it will be Jake, Coach Sean, and myself.
Yeah.
Y'all think Caden Proctor will start? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
For sure, Bama Productions, my dog. Yes,
I absolutely
man.
do.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel good about that.
We'll jump more into those topics tomorrow on
Yep.
the morning stream. Looking forward to that. As I said yesterday, just do some house cleaning duties, right? So keeping order. The Monday stream on my channel will not happen on not this Monday, Jimmy, because I will be in Colorado. So I will not be here Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. There is a possibility of Wednesday, but I don't know when I get back from Colorado because there's it's up in the air whether or not I'll be back Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll see.
Got you.
But we will be live on Around the Table Sports, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday. So a week from today, to break down the SEC and the Big Ten. It's the Around the Table Sports Bama Productions. We do a live round table. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5. Got it. I love Jimmy, man. That guy, he makes me laugh so much. But also on June 13th, I will be going live with Bleacher Report to discuss the state of the SEC. Would love to see y'all over there.
Hell yeah.
And that's about it. That's about all the news I have. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, make sure you guys support Ty Around the Table Sports. Support all of our coaches. You know what I'm saying? Like I keep saying this. I got love for everybody. That's the biggest thing for me. You know, Coach Sean doing his thing with his new channel. I think we'll probably. I don't know if what we'll do with it or Coach Sean and whatnot, but I'm guessing he's going to maybe live stream soon. We'll see what happens with that. We'll chat with Coach Sean and maybe get another video out there. If you haven't checked out the latest video, we did some stuff a little bit on the secondary and the coverage, and it was fun. And then obviously his is JMHO Sports. All right, that's his new channel on YouTube. You can also find him with that Twitter handle. Okay. JMHO Sports, right? And that's Coach Sean. So make sure you follow him. Obviously, Ty, your boy. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Around the Table Sports. I mean, it's a lot of fun there. We really do get around the table when we do some live streams over there, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, last one was good.
Took us 2 hours to break down 2 conferences.
Yeah, we got into it. It was a lot of fun, man. And you get some really educational guys over there. You got Jason from Hall of Fame college football, Jason and the coach. He does some really good stuff. He talks about a lot of different things. I like Jason a lot. PG. And then you got Jay from Unfair Sports.
Unfair Sports, yeah.
Yeah, you got Nino. And what's Nino's ties again?
Nino Sport Corner.
Dude, yeah. And follows because they put out the content like on the teams that they obviously follow, whether it's Oklahoma, whether it's Texas, but in general, it's college football. And if you love college football like me and Ty do and everybody, you have a lot of fun getting into it. You got Jance, Coach Jay, you got his thing, and he said he's going to get up and start doing some more content, get back into it. So make sure you hit him up on Twitter too. Obviously, Ty on Twitter, and that's ATS_sports, right, Ty?
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah,
my Twitter's boring. You don't need to worry about.
Well, and we tag each other, but I got mine back up now too. Mine's all capital, so if you go and search for it, it has to be all capital. But it's at Coach_J Mayer, as you can see underneath my name. And then you got Coach Smook over at Coach Smook Network. He does some awesome stuff. Always into a lot of different topics over there. They got some exciting things popping in and out with them and some of the recruits that they're talking to. And Smook always has some really good inside info. So make sure you follow him and obviously Coach Smook at his Twitter. And check us out again here at Bama Football on YouTube, everybody. So a lot of fun today. Hope you guys liked me and Ty. Hope you enjoyed Kyle this morning. Run those thumbs up. And I'll definitely see you guys, sounds like this evening with Coach Sean and Coach Jay. I think it's 7 p.m. Central Time.
Yep, 7 p.m. And Bama Productions, my thing on Bleacher Report is 2 p.m. June 13th.
Yeah, make sure you guys mark down the calendar, support Ty, and give him a lot of love. So
yeah, because I'm going to have a bunch of people from all of these SEC fan bases trying to give me hell. So
They're coming
that's
after
gonna be
you.
fun, though. That's gonna be fun, though. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, love you guys. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you all for
100%.
joining us. In time to introduce you to the most esteemed member of the panel, the all-knowing, the all-knowledgeable, the always rolling spinning wheel of doom.